the model.
I was just doing something.
In the back.
I'll bring my one year old back there.
I was just 6 months or 7 months. Down to 1
Gonna make the most. He'll be worse than he don't even. He'll be like, I was going No, he'll use very. He's currently studying the SAT.
Oh.
And he likes to memorize like now. Can I get that in a sentence?
Yeah.
He's like preparing for it. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's
He'll
fun.
literally give it to us. And he'll be like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can go
Oh, wow. More kids. Yeah. That's a lot. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's what it's cool. I don't know what's yeah, that's what I'm just thinking of. Those are rough ones. We won. Yeah. Well, maybe when the actual furniture that is your things for that can be more fun. Yeah. We don't put the freaking oil filter. Oh, I think we get audio on that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how it works, but yeah. But I don't know. Yeah. That's not that old day. I think that needs to go all the way down. What is this? You ready? You're recording? You've been recording? Okay. I don't know, I just turned off the mic. Turn down. Oh, yeah. There you go. All right. We will call this meeting of the Palmer City Council to order for June 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Madam Deputy Clerk, could you do the roll call for us?
Deputy Mayor Tudor?
Here.
Councilmember Cooper?
Present.
Councilmember Irby?
Here.
Councilmember Graver? Here. Mayor Carrington?
Here.
Councilmember Hudson? Here. And Councilmember Alcantara?
Here.
All right. If everyone could rise, I'll ask George, a golf course band, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is approval of the agenda. There's a couple items on our consent agenda, so maybe it would help if I asked for the item on renewal of Matsu Miners Recreational Site seasonal license. Did we receive any more information since the packet has been published?
No, we've not received any additional information.
Okay,
No adjustments or.
all right. So if we approve the agenda as stated, then the consent agenda will go through, but that, I wanted to take care of that question just for documentation's sake. So what's the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Alcantara.
can I ask, I think a couple basic questions on item 25054. In order to ask those, I need to ask that be taken off the consent agenda.
Yes, I believe that would be
Okay.
correct if we want to discuss it too.
All right.
I will support that.
Okay, so,
So we're moving item D1B to action member I, action memorandum 3.
is that what we're doing? Okay. Okay, and for the council, is there any objection to that amendment? Okay, see no objection. That's been amended. Is there anything else, or did you get a motion?
We did.
Okay, so we still need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think it was right, I just wanted to make a comment, thank you to Deputy Clerk for, revising those meeting minutes from April 22nd. And then I would like to move to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended, moving the D1B to action items.
Yes.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Graver,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Irby,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes.
Okay. So that is approval of the agenda. There's no special communications or appearance requests. Reports. City Manager's report. Madam Manager.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by congratulating the new Palmer Firefighter 1 graduates. I had the pleasure this weekend of attending the graduation ceremony on Saturday at Station 36, and I was truly impressed with this class. Their commitment and professionalism are very commendable, and we're proud to welcome them into service. We continue to advance recruitment efforts for several key leadership positions. Applications for both the Chief of Police and Community Development Director roles are currently under review. Initial screenings are underway. Interviews will be scheduled in the coming weeks. The Human Resource Manager position has been reposted. However, there will be no interruption in services to our personnel in our city because our contracted HR firm remains in place. I'm also pleased to share that the recruitment of the Fire Chief position is officially open, with application period closing on July 2nd. Looking ahead, I've invited Mr. Gary Wolf to the June 24th City Council meeting to provide a cost breakdown of his work and project estimate for library reconstruction. Interim Community Development Director Nate will also be present to discuss related infrastructure components related to the department. Also, on the June 24th City Council meeting, we'll have an opioid settlement presentation. We'll cover potential uses of funds and just a general overview for the City Council and constituents awareness. And again, as a reminder, the ITB for the library demolition project closes tomorrow, June 11th at 2 p.m. Staff will evaluate all submissions to ensure alignment with project goals and budget expectations. I will provide council with an update and recommend next steps following the bid review. And following the recent special meeting, I was tasked with identifying a more self-sufficient approach to streaming public meetings. We continue to explore long-term solutions. In the interim, tonight's meeting will be streamed via Zoom. We've launched a City of Palmer YouTube channel where recordings will be made available for future viewing. And of course, we also have our partner Big Cabbage in the room as well for continuity. And then finally, I would like to use a few minutes and welcome Public Works Director Jude, who will now present his department update that I presented as an option last time. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Biddleford.
Good evening, Mayor. Am I on now?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Jude Biddleford, Public Works Director. I was asked as part of the regular updates to you to give a department update, and I wanted to overview you just quickly on a couple of key items that are going on within the department. First, our road striping and curb painting is complete for this year. As mentioned, some of you are aware of this, we instituted a process where we do a third of the city every year. So I think we have made great progress in keeping with this and had several compliments that the striping looks good. We do have some areas that we accidentally striped incorrectly, and my crew will fix that. But they are very minimal. Rest assured, we are checking, and if you see any or you hear of constituents mentioning any, please send them our way, and we will be more than happy to look at it and address it. The crew, due to weather issues, sometimes we're working 15, 16-hour days. Anytime you work under those kind of conditions, it's inevitable that small mistakes could be made. So please bear with us, but that part is done for this year. Couple key things to highlight for you. As part of the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, that now the core area of the Mat-Su Borough has become, there is an opportunity for federal funds for certain projects. All these projects are managed by the DOT. It is still in its infancy. The city submitted 4 very small projects. There's a limited pool of money at this point right now for consideration. And it was not just the City of Palmer, it was the City of Wasilla, the Mat-Su Borough, DOT, 2 Native associations are also as part of this entity. I am happy to announce that all 4 of Palmer's small projects were pushed forward and recommended for funding, and then design and construction by the DOT. Again, they are small projects, but it's a huge win because the city did not have the money to undertake these projects by themselves. So there are portions of Caribou Ave, North Chugach, East Dolphin, and East Gold Key. All 4 of those sections that I mentioned are unpaved roads. And as you've heard me say, most of you, we struggle with clearing them in the winter because they are gravel. I cannot do the normal clearing of snow with a snowblower and dump trucks due to the fear, well, it's not a fear, we will shoot rocks everywhere, and that's unacceptable. So if we were to clear those roads when we have a significant snow year, it's with loaders, which quadruples our time to attempt to clear a road. So, as mentioned, a huge step forward. There is approximately an 8% match that is needed, but we will put that into the budget this coming up year. We estimate, based on what DOT is sharing with us, that those projects could go to design next year, 2026, which we have no requirement for assisting on that cost, and then to construction of 2027. That's best case scenario. As mentioned, I think it's a huge step forward. We have long had a need to do some road work in town with paving the roads, and that's our start. So, great news there. The Fireweed Ave project. I had initially mentioned to you that we were going to start it on the 16th of June. Since Colony Days finishes that Sunday evening, I sat down with the construction crew. We opted to push it 1 week because my guess is there will still be a significant number of visitors in town, and we did not want to start staging our equipment then. So that project will now officially kick off on the 23rd of June. It is anticipated to last. We are being told by the contractor he expects it to be complete 1 August. It was our goal to be done before fair time and before school started, but 1 August is a great bit of news that we were told. So again, that starts on the 23rd of June. I did give Chamber of Commerce heads up on this. I've spoken with the Matsu Borough. I've spoken with EMS folks. The school district, I did let them know in case they had after-school summer programs. Not so much them, but our impact to things like Friday flings will be minimal. We will have fencing up to ensure that, little kids love to run around in the green space there, that they don't get too close to checking out all the cool heavy construction equipment. We do anticipate a lot of people watching this project, which is a good thing. Next one, the reason why I say lots of little kids looking at heavy equipment, there was a Touch-A-Truck program that was put on last week. I don't know if you heard about that. Police, fire, and public works had vehicles there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 253 people came to this, and it was dreary weather. We were in the old library parking lot. A huge success. My favorite part was watching how many little kids could climb into the bucket of one of our big loaders. The most I counted was 13. So I don't know if that will be a tradition or not, but the climbing in the bucket piece, I hope the Touch-A-Truck project is. But a great community outreach program. And I thought it went very, very well. My final one for this evening, and this is to socialize some of you with a project that has been brewing. I know some council members are aware, others are not. And this involves a Matsu Borough project that was started in early 2022. The borough put together a project list for submission to DOT to get DOT funding. That was, again, in 2022, the Matsu Borough Assembly, I found their legislation, approved this to go forward. In 2023, it was a bond package that was put forth by the Matsu Borough for the voters, and the voters approved this bond package. As part of this bond package, there was a project. It's called the Springer Road Pathway Project. This project was to build a pathway along the Springer Road from the Glen Highway, past the fairgrounds, and then connect to Cope Industrial. The need for pathways and walking trails around the city has a fantastic number of users for pathways and things like that. Late 2023, it was brought up that because of the project's cost, and it was $2.4 million at that time, 2023, and it did involve right-of-way acquisition, utility relocations, and then there was negotiating with the city for who was going to maintain it. It was then a concept was floated that instead of building this pathway on a 55-mile-an-hour road and deal with right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, utilize the abandoned railroad spur for the project. That did involve Matsu Borough Assembly members, city officials. Again, I don't know the degree that it was brought to council. I am aware of it, was aware of it, and had discussed it. It would change the project cost from $2.4 million down to just over $700,000. What that did, because of that cost drop, was elevate that project on DOT's project list. Again, this is not a city project. And why I am bringing this to you is I was contacted by the Matsu Borough, and I spoke with their public works director today, that there is a maintenance agreement being worked by DOT and the Mat-Su Borough to finalize the funding constraints and the roles of their project. And their goal is to push forward, and now why I am here, to utilize that rail spur for this pathway. Part of the intent was, as I have discussed with the borough, you link now the Mountain Rose communities and you link existing pathways and you get users off of that road, the Springer Road. That pathway would then terminate right on the west edge of SBS, which is right at the Purple Gate, and there was a crossing that DOT had already put in there at that location. So it would facilitate, as I said, a walking system. Utilization would be that rail spur. That is all I know on the project right now, but I am available for questions and discussion. As I said, the city was asked if, since the city owns the rail line, not the Alaska Railroad, the city of Palmer, they own the rails, they own the property, they own every bit of the track, that if the city of Palmer would do a donation in kind, if you will, because dealing with the project, the city was going to be on the hook for maintaining the project. So that's where this came in, us donating that. We don't lose the land, we don't lose the authority of the land or anything like that. But that further elevates the project to when the project would go to construction, which I do not have a timeline on that. I do not know that. I believe it is contingent upon the MSB's and the DOT's maintenance agreement. But as I mentioned, since this has been brewing for a while and now I have found the key documents, this is something to bring to your attention. Does anyone have any questions? I will do my best to answer because I'm sure there will be some on this.
With your permission, Madam Manager. Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your report. Appreciate it. So curious, you know, railroad tracks, and I was more thinking about the question for the fire project. Never ripped up railroad tracks in my life. I imagine they're awfully heavy. I'm thinking of the deck project I got going on. I'm tired of carrying wood around, let alone carrying railroad tracks around. But what happens to the railroad tracks that get taken up from both the Fireway project and potentially another project?
So, Councilmember Alcantara, I answer the easy one first, which is the Fireway project. So the Fireway project is a little different because the Alaska Railroad owns that track. So, by the current agreements, we would have to give them back the track. But the track is not usable to them, so I have asked if we can keep that track. There have been some ideas floated that we cut up pieces of that track, sell it. Maybe it could go to art, maybe it could be staged at the museum. So there's several different ideas that were floated. Right now it appears that the railroad has no objection to that, but I do not have that in writing. I've been told that. Now that's for the Fireway, and that's only a small section of track. But the city, as it stands right now, would be able to keep that and then determine what to do with it. As for this potential project, the rail spur, use of that, the city owns that track and all those ties. That will stay with the city. And that has been conveyed to the Mat-Su Borough. That's what will happen. That track and those ties will stay with us, with the city. There is a special machine. There's an outfit out there that has like a rail car specifically designed to pick the tracks off and then the ties and put them on their car as they move down a track to clear it. Now, in terms of what to do with that, there have been no ideas or thoughts or anything like that of what to do with that rail.
Thank you. I'll follow up on that.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Just so everybody knows, because I would definitely go through city manager circle before I would go to Jude. I've never had a discussion with them about cutting up the railroad track, but that's exactly where I was going, is that cut this railroad track into manageable pieces that are commemorative, that say, Palmer Railroad Track, 1938, 1947, whatever the year is, that I know, at least speaking for myself, I'd be interested in a piece of that history. My father worked on the railroad in Curry back in the early 50s, and so there's a lot of people that are, both up in arms and care about what's going on with that railroad track, as you well know. So that's kind of where my mind was racing to. Maybe there's a way to make a tiny bit of money on this, but also kind of get it out in the hands of people that are both railroad enthusiasts and history enthusiasts as well. So other than that, I just want to say thanks for the striking that you've done. I've noticed, especially there by Nose Goose restaurant, turn lanes and everything vibrant, looking good. And on the other part that you talked about, East Gold Key, Dolphin, Caribou, and one other street. I don't want to go back in history, back to the 80s plus when those things were developed, because I'm sure there's way too much time to say, here's what happened every decade or why those particular streets never saw pavement. But I love the fact that if you can get this through the design in 26 and construction in 27, I lived on Dolphin Street back in the early 80s, so I remember that, and I'm so blown away that those few streets over there, Caribou, Dolphin, and Gold Key, are still around longer after all this time. But I think that's all I had for you. The last thing I would ask you is, what's the total length of that trail that we're talking about, where this last project, that we're potentially giving up spur?
The actual length,
700,000 is the cost, but what's the?
Forgive me, the actual length, I don't know the exact measurement. All I know is it would, the western terminus would be right on the west edge of SBS, right down to where the actual crossing is that DOT built to cross Springer to the Purple Gate. And then the other end would be the Cope Industrial Trail, where that comes out over by the airport. So it would link, the trail would basically be by itself, but one of the key components that what was brought and started to gain traction was linking the Mountain Rose Estates and the trail system that is currently here. There are so many users that walk, and I was not aware of it, but the number of people who walk along the Springer Road, I don't travel that direction very often, it's pretty significant, I guess.
Okay. Is there any other questions from council for the manager, or through the manager, but Mr. Wilford?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have one.
Yes, Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you. Jude, a question for you. This railroad, you're talking about the railroad spur that we own that goes to the airport. What kind of interaction or comments have we had with the 557 project, and they are the ones who wanted to use that spur almost exclusively?
Councilmember Cooper, I have not had any correspondences or contacts, nor been called or emailed, or any questions brought to us about 557. I have heard just from being in these meetings some of their concepts that they have thought about, but I have not had any dealings with them.
Follow up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So is there any plans to contact them, or are we waiting for them to contact us? I know that they've got multi-million dollars worth of investment in that 557, and I know that they wanted to store that engine out at the airport by using our spur. So I would hope that we would at least be in contact with them, at least to let them know what the plans are from DOT and Borough.
I will certainly engage with the manager and get her direction on if it's myself or the manager or somebody else to contact them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, if I can kind of follow up on that. I did speak with the 557 trained folks. Oh gosh, probably like a couple months ago when we were going through the original railroad crossing we were discussing here, and they did reiterate me they were hoping to use that part of the track at least for testing out of the train, and they're hoping to use that. And I think they might just be assuming that it's going to be available to you, so it definitely might be good just to follow up with them. But I just want to give you a little bit of a shout out here too. I really appreciate you fixing the electrical lines along the railroad tracks there by the pavilion. That is going to be really, really nice for this winter. And also, is it Evergreen? By the train depot. It's so nice now. I was, kind of going, man, this is like really rough in my car, but it's smooth, and I appreciate you doing that.
We coordinated to have that done in anticipation of additional traffic.
Oh, sure.
Due to the Fire Week project. We pray it lasts longer than the 8 months that the last 4 have lasted, but we made sure it was compacted a little bit differently this time. As I mentioned, since we knew we were diverting, and that's a significant number of users who go over Fireweed, let's try to help a little bit.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the resolution that Councilman Cooper was referring to was number 17-017. That was passed April 25th, 2017. Sorry, and our mayor was on the council at that time, and so was the borough mayor, Edmund DeVries, and she actually helped bring this forward for support, and now she's it sounds like accepting DOT funds to go against a resolution that was passed under her as mayor for the city of Palmer. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think maybe looking into this, and when I was over with the 557, they were planning the same thing that Councilman Tudor had brought forward, that they had support because of this resolution. And that's why constituents from this community have spent over $3.5 million in their hard-earned money to bring that project forward. So I definitely think having a meeting with them would be a good idea before assuming the city's full support, because it's opposite of what we did when they started the project. So thank you.
I'm not familiar with that resolution, but I will go pull it. Does that resolution state that we give them tracts? I'm not familiar with it. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to, I don't know what the resolution is.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, sir. It's a resolution of the Palmer City Council supporting Engine 557's restoration, preservation, and restoration of the engine and the rail infrastructure in Palmer. Whereas over the last 50 years, many of the vestiges of Alaska's history as a vibrant railroad state have faded or been lost, and whereas the Engine 557 is a symbol and an example to educate new generations about Alaska's railroad history, and whereas the city of Palmer, the railroad department depot, was established in 1915 and represents a place of significance in Alaska's railroad history, whereas the Engine 557 Restoration Company and the Alaska Railroad Corporation have a limited use agreement for the track from the Alaska State Fairgrounds to the depot in the city of Palmer, and whereas the Engine 557 Restoration Company also seeks to operate on the Palmer Rail Spur that runs from the Alaska Railroad Corporation mainline to the Warren Bud Woods Palmer Municipal Airport. Now therefore be it resolved that the Palmer City Council hereby fully supports the 557 Restoration Company's efforts to restore the Engine 557 and the preservation and rehabilitation of the existing rail infrastructure within and connecting to the city of Palmer.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Manager, do you have any more for your report?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Graber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a few clarifying questions. And excuse me if I'm not understanding this correctly. So, if I may, please. Through the manager, thank you. So this, the borough, this hasn't been finalized yet. That's correct.
Correct. It is in the as I understood it, based on today's meeting, it is an agreement between the Matsu Borough and the DOT to finalize roles and responsibilities for the project.
Okay.
And I have not seen any draft or anything.
So they haven't decided to use the spur yet.
I would say it's 95% the decision to use the spur, or to pursue that direction.
Okay. So if the city owns that spur, it seems like they made 95% of the decision without the city.
Without the city.
So as a council, is it up to us to say yes or no then?
I would think, and that's hence why I'm coming to the council, that I would say now is the time. Well, I'm not presenting anything to make a decision on, but I'm sure we'll develop something, and I'll get the exact language from the Matsu Borough. But I would expect the council to weigh in and say yes or no.
Okay. Madam Manager and Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to end on a good note because it's not with you, it's with the borough. Sorry, so I just wanted to clarify. And so the crossing looks great with the railroad tracks right by the depot, so I did appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm not trying to cast the borough in a bad light. I am not at all. So please, I don't want anybody to take that. Just when you have an opportunity to save a significant amount of money and do something that may incorporate significantly greater number of users, that's something to consider, regardless of which side folks may be on. Again, I'm just sharing with you that might be one where you take a bunch of public testimony on. Do you have and again, I have never seen an operating plan from this 557 group. I don't know what it would entail. I don't have anything. I don't know if they have certified engineers to operate on the road, or on the rail. I'm sorry, forgive me. Again, not that it's my business, but as the maintainer of everything around the city, I should be included on these sorts of things. And again, I have not seen any type of operational document that says, here's what we want to do, here's streets we need to close, here's how we're going to do it, here's when we're going to run. If you have something that runs 2, 3, 4 times a year versus somebody using, and again, I'm not saying one way or the other, I'm just throwing it out there, versus somebody, I can tell you, when we did the airport pathway just a couple years ago, there were some naysayers. You heard them come up here. That pathway gets used, I would dare say, every single day from multiple users. Again, I'm not advocating one way or the other at the moment. Okay, I have not seen everything in order to be able to do that for you. I've only seen one side, if that's fair. I've not seen the other side to be able to give you a perspective on impacts to the city.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Anything else, Madam Manager?
I have nothing else to add, but I do like to echo some of the things that Judy said. I also have not seen an operations plan as a steward of the city. I'd like to see any type of public safety and liability questions answered well in advance and having agreements set in place that would essentially identify the city from any liability in case of any accidents. But I'd be looking forward to meeting with the group and seeing that plan.
Council, Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I just wanted to kind of put a bug in your ear a little bit. I saw on Facebook there were some posts about some possible issues with the Cedar Hills subdivision with the culverts, with they were listing some possible sinkholes, things like that, inspections. And I just want to put a bug in your ear that maybe we're looking into because it got a lot of traction on Facebook and it's something that we should look at.
Sure, if you could forward me those posts, I work with the Public Works to address those issues.
Okay, absolutely, thank you.
All right, next is the mayor's report. I had a written report, and then also wanted to remind people that was it this Thursday we have the Palmer baseball game with the Matsu Miners, and then the following Thursday, June 19th, is Juneteenth celebration. That'll be in downtown Palmer from 2 to 7. That's where they have a horseback reenactment and some food trucks, etc. So wanted to mention that. Is there any questions for me for my report? Okay. City clerk report. Deputy clerk.
I just have a couple of things. I just wanted to let people know that the summer legislative conference is coming up at the middle of August. It's in the August 13th and 14th. It's in the town formerly known as Barrow. I apologize. I can never say the new name, but I have it written down in case anybody wants it. Just put that on your radar. I'll be sending out some more information regarding travel and all that good stuff. Also, my office is working with the city manager to perhaps look at stopping advertising the agenda in the frontiersman. Perhaps update that a little bit. The city would continue to utilize our website, agenda, click e-notifications, posting on the entrance by City Hall, and then utilize Facebook more to let people know about meetings. I'm checking with Palmer Municipal Code and Title 29 to make sure we would stay in compliance. So just so you know, I wanted to try to save the money, or we did save some money for the city for those advertising costs, and so I'll let you know as that progresses. And I also wanted to remind everybody that the candidate filing period for the October 7th, 2025 regular election, I'm so nervous. Anyway, will start July 21st, and the candidate filing packets will be available online and in my office at 8 a.m. on July 21st. The last day for candidate filing will be August 1st. So tonight, if anybody has any questions.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Clerk Johnson, and you shouldn't be nervous, you're doing fantastic, by the way. I would just kind of throw something out there that travel to Yavik, down in West Barrow, in August is that's a pretty expensive, not only plane ticket, but I fear more for the lodging situation. I'm not saying anything against AML supplements and conference that may be worthwhile to attend. I would just suggest that may be something that we keep to potentially a mayor, deputy mayor type of attendance, and not allow that to be like our a piece where we actually can talk to legislators and do other things. So I would just ask the powers that be to proceed with caution when it comes to that particular place. If you said, out eating their home route and said, hey, everybody go do their thing, but we'd be out again in August. I see the dollar signs going up pretty fast.
I would agree.
Thank you. And thank you for your report.
Any other questions for the deputy clerk? Okay. City attorney's report. Madam Attorney.
Good evening, I'll be brief. The advantage of going next or last is that when we're working on direct projects, I don't have to say anything. So a couple things that we had, the clerk's office, the city manager, and myself had discussed this past week. I've been working with the city manager and various department heads on different questions and projects as we're going forward. The city manager mentioned putting on a Q&A presentation from the Master Borough on June 24th with opioid settlement funds. I'll be present for that as well to answer any questions. And then one of the conversations we had is looking at future educational and training discussions we had this with the clerk and the city manager to bring some specialists on Robert's Rules of Order, have a review of Palmer's current election process, and kind of having ongoing education since the last project as well.
Any questions for our attorney for the council? Okay. Next we have audience participation. Council meeting rules protect your right to testify and be heard even if others in the room disagree with you. Council meeting rules also ensure that those attending can express their views if they do not interfere with the rights of others to see and hear the proceedings. At all times, order and decorum will be maintained in keeping with the civility and dignity of the legislative process. Please be respectful during audience participation. No disruptions to city business or threats of any kind will be allowed. Individuals who cannot follow these guidelines will be removed. Any threats against others could result in criminal prosecution. Please sign in, state your name, you have 3 minutes per person. Open audience participation. David, are you first one?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council folks. My name is David Wilson, for the record, representing Matthew Health Foundation. I handed the Deputy Clerk our annual report. Last night was our annual meeting from the Matthew Health Foundation. I just want to highlight a couple of items here for you guys. Since 2006, Matthew Health Foundation has given away and granted over $1,125 million to over 436 organizations in the Matsu Borough. Those organizations include obviously our NGOs, but also includes all 3 cities, the borough, schools, and faith-based religious organizations as well. This past year, the Matsu Health Foundation has granted $21 million to over 112 organizations to 186 programs within those organizations. With our grant scholarships and vocational funding, last year we granted almost $3 million, $2.8 million. With our Connect Matsu, we've seen almost 2,000 folks to refer them to additional services, to provide support, and meet those folks where they're at. And through Rock Matsu, it's our cross-collaborative community member organizations with over 74 partner organizations, and have done over 500 participants in training, a little bit more about ACEs and PACEs, the adverse childhood and preventing childhood adverse effects and building resiliencies. Over 104 babies through our 4 community baby shower events have been supported, and over 29 facilitators in child abuse prevention and home visitations programs. Matsu Health Foundation is working. We'll be back next month to give a little bit more of an update here once this goes all official, but we've got to give you a little teaser that we're working with the hospital, the Matsu Regional Medical Center, and the Health Foundation will have a pretty large announcement coming forth on an expansion project for behavioral health services here for our community, and we look forward to giving you guys a little more information and hopefully coming along for a partnership with that and support. With that, I'll go ahead and sit down and be around afterwards if you guys have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Don't know who's next.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Kelly, Palmer Chamber, just talking about Colony Days, as I have done the last 3 times, but it's this weekend. Our luncheon is tomorrow, the Colony Days Chamber Luncheon, so please come if you'd like to. It's going to be a busy weekend. We have lots and lots of events planned for the 90th celebration of Colony Days. I know there's going to be an event Sunday night for, is it just the Palmer Historical Society, or is it?
I think it's Palmer Historical Society, you guys, and
Yep.
family.
Yep. So please come to that, and I hope to see you guys down at Colony Days. And it'll be nice, right?
Sounds like a plan. Anyone else for audience participation? If you haven't signed in, please sign in. Start off with your name.
My name is Gary Satterfield. I'm the sitting president of Mountain Rose East Estates Condo Association, have been for the last 5 years. Previous to that, I was the secretary. I have with me the treasurer of our board, who was the president at the time preceding this resolution. And I have entered to come to talk to you about this resolution number 17017. I delivered a request to the city chambers on June 3rd, 2025. I don't know if you received what I stated in that, and if you didn't, but I can take a moment to read it. The statement I delivered was, I'm asking that the provision that allows operation of engine 557 on the Warrenwood Spur from the Alaska Railroad main line to be rescinded. I do not believe that this part of the resolution adequately considered the quality of the life and safety of the owners and residents of 2 retirement communities and a townhome community of lower medium to low income residents of our city with children. The track bed passes very close to 3 duplexes of the elderly senior citizens of our community and a townhome community where the children freely play unsupervised. The track bed is used daily by walkers of many residents of the Palmer community because of the connectivity of other trails and sidewalks that allow walking without threat of motor vehicular traffic. My understanding is that the track bed was only kept for the purpose of extreme emergency use, not trained hobbyists. Parking the engine on the airport property will also create an attractive nuisance to our communities of which they should not be subjected to. I won't bring out the item in resolution number 17017 because it's been previously read by one of the council members. I believe the council decision failed to adequately evaluate the safety and liability of the city. Our community was not even notified that they were doing this. There was no public notice, no letter sent to the board of directors, no letter sent to the community members by mail of Mountain Rose East kind of association. The other association I can't speak for because I don't live there. I've had conversations with their board presidents and they're addressing this issue as well.
That's the 3 minutes, sir. We have another audience participation later as well.
Okay.
Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Wesley Arts, Palmer Bar. I actually went golfing the other day, and I actually listened to the whole workshop you guys did, and it was actually really good. I would hopefully like to see more of that stuff and posted where we all can pay attention. It was very educational. Thank you for you guys for doing it. Hopefully that becomes a policy where you have to do it every election because you guys make policies. Also, the whole with the spur stuff, if the borough is doing stuff without our notice, this is kind of what one of my fears is people outside of the community are going to start ignoring that Palmer is small and they're going to start making decisions. Same thing happened to Eagle River, same thing happened to Girdwood. Unless Palmer starts growing and gets a larger tax base and more voters, we're going to see more and more of the borough and state functions coming in here and taking stuff from Palmer, saying, hey, they don't need to make a decision. So please think about that. Hey, thank you for your guys' work.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jackie Goforth. I sat here about 3 weeks ago and was remonstrated and put down and talked down to by a city council member. And I want to tell you something. I don't do shaming, okay? I do facts. And when I say that things look like alleged insurance fraud, that's because they do. And when I say things look like alleged election interference, it's because they do. Now, starting in April of 2022, with the last recall, I was a poll watcher for 13 hours. And I want you to know that at that time, I had 3 different conversations with the clerk, Shelley Atkinson. And as I stated to her, I sent her a letter, and you're getting a copy of it now, although I didn't send you all the backup to it. As I stated to you at 7:58 p.m. on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, on the floor of the Max Subaru Building, 350 East Dahlia Avenue, Palmer, Alaska, I have low confidence in your control of an election. I've never seen a government function run with this much mismanagement, no procedure, courtesy, lack of control, ethical and integrity issues, disinterest in the brevity of a government procedure, incompetence, disorganization, ineffectiveness, and general disorder, and I stand on every single one of those. Do you know that they chased down people who were out of bounds? 48 of them. People came in and they said, oh, I'm not in bounds, and then they chased them down and said, oh, you have to. You have to fill out a question ballot. And I know this because one of the gentlemen got a handwritten note. He got him a handwritten note on one of them. Oh, by the way, I was stuck behind bonds and wasn't allowed to come out except to look at the poll stations. And at 5 o'clock, one of the poll workers came over and sat at the table and picked a fight with the woman I was with, so she was removed. I was not involved whatsoever. I moved away out of the way. But this is the contentious atmosphere that was there. At 3:39, 3 voters were there. And one of them was told he was out of bounds, but they chased him down and asked him, stopped him from leaving. He said he was influenced, instructed, and they appeared to coerce him into applying for and voting a question ballot. And then they gave him a handwritten note that said, Canvas Board, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 to 5 p.m., City Hall, City Clerk Shelley Atkinson with a phone number. You know, I wanted to attend that canvassing. And on Wednesday when I called, I couldn't get anybody at City Hall to call. But then I remembered I had the note he'd given me. And I called that number. And they were so wonderful and pleasant and said, of course you can come, until they found out my name. This is what I mean when I say election interference alleged. It's like when the Friends of the Palmer Public Library are actually getting money to do an election, to do a yes, vote yes, a campaign, but they're illegally doing it, which they were found in violation of by APOC and fined, and yet the money that they're getting is coming through the City Hall. Their donation link was in City Hall. That is what looks like alleged election interference. And on a ballot, when you allow somebody to put a bolded line on there, when I already know you can't do that when you're doing a petition for recall, that looks like, I always say looks like. It looks like election interference. That's why I said it. So please try and find other words to shame me with. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for audience participation? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close this audience participation. There's no public hearings. We've got action memorandum number 25-053, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into a contract with Northern Gravel and Trucking LLC for the purchase and delivery of 200 tons of road salt in the amount of $34,000. Do we want a staff report, or we the material provided? Okay.
I was going to move to approve, so did you want?
Yeah,
more information?
no, I'm ready.
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion from the council about gravel? All right, Madam Deputy Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Graver,
Yes.
Councilmember Irby,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tudor,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
and Councilmember Hudson.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Action memorandum number 25-055, authorizing the city manager to purchase a pre-owned Greensmaster 3150Q gas 18 horsepower lawnmower from Turf Star Western for an amount not to exceed $28,600 for the Palmer Municipal Golf Course. Do you want a staff report on this? Councilmember Alcantara? Yes?
We could get somebody to come up here and stop me.
Okay.
I thought maybe how much George might want to speak to it, but.
Is
that okay?
Madam Manager, how are?
Yeah, George, all right.
Yeah.
Welcome, George.
Thank you. Do I sign in?
No, this is a different part of the meeting.
Okay. Thanks for having me. So I'll just take questions, I guess, for the mower.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's one of our golf course superintendent up here just because, but, so we put this out to bid. These are the best bids that come back, and this is a used piece of equipment that has been maintained and refurbished to the point where we're excited about having this. And I know that the weather coming this week, the grass and other things are really going to start popping on the golf course. So I'm just checking to see if this is something that has to go through Public Works, or if this goes through the actual through you guys there at the golf course.
Well, I don't think it's ever gone through Public Works before for this kind of equipment. But anybody that plays golf or knows anything about golf knows that a greens mower is probably the most essential piece of equipment at a golf course. We have one that's operational right now, but it's getting pretty old, so it'd be nice to have this one to take its place, and we could have the other one as a backup in case one of them goes down. But you know, getting it used is a great deal. From Turstar, it was a lease return. They go through the piece of machinery and they guarantee that it's going to be in good working order when we get it. And we've done business with them before. In the past, we get a lot of our supplies from that company. And you know, they're one of the major players down in the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. So I feel confident in this piece of equipment that'll go for quite a long time.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Assume we pass this, how soon will you get the piece of equipment? That's going to be delivered this summer or next?
It would be this summer. The next stage would be just setting up the shipping and getting it here. It could be as soon as a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that assuming this passed, I'm excited for you to have a new mowers. It's got to be exciting. And a suggestion, I think it would be super cool if you got your picture taken on the new mower on the golf course and we posted on the city website. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you. And George, we've talked about this before. Did you ever, or do you ever look at the Defense Logistics Agency for their used or excess equipment?
Are you,
It used to be called DRMO, the Defense Reutilization Management Office.
are you referring, Councilmember Cooper, are you referring to the military equipment?
Yes, they have excess and surplus equipment.
I watch that site constantly. I communicate with the manager at Moose Run, Josh Cantrell, regularly. He knows, that we're always looking. And last year, that's how we got our newer power cars that we got, which were awesome to have, to say the least. So right. Yes, I am watching.
Yeah, good. Well, I appreciate that you're continuing to look there, because they sometimes have some new equipment that we could probably use. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Deputy Clerk, if you could call the roll, please. Sorry. Oh, we don't have a motion. Sorry. Councilmember Hudson.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All right. Deputy Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Traeger,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Irby,
Yes.
Mayor Harrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yes.
All right. Next action memorandum is 25-054. Confirm the mayoral nomination of Richard Young and Steve Odin. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. To the Airport Advisory Commission seats D and G with terms expiring on December 31, 2027. Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just noticing on here, and it just struck me curious that the application, Mr. Young, came a couple months before the public notice went out. I assume there's just a collective thing where the certain advisory committees and different things, where we just kind of keep maybe a running tab of folks applying for positions. It said that public notice went out on December 12th, 2024, and December 30th, 2024. And Mr. Young, who was very, very qualified, applied on October 8th, 2024. And then Steve Odine, if that's how you pronounce his last name correctly, applied on February 24th of this year, 2025. So one question I had was the application came in a couple months before the notice, which may just be a continuing rolling thing, but I also, we're sitting here in June, and these apparently are 3-year terms that now are, half a year is already elapsed. I just wonder, I know this advisory committee only meets quarterly, so they probably only quote unquote miss one meeting, but I'm just curious why it's taken, I guess not since October, because that's the application piece, but since December till June before we have this come in front of us. Thank you.
Well, I know when I'll get calls occasionally for interest in the boards and commissions, and my answer usually is here, check out the website, you see something, apply for it. Because knowing in the fall we're coming up on, we used to renew them, I think, in October every year, and then I think we shifted it to the first of the year. It made more sense to keep it that way. But yeah, I think some of the difficulties is we had a dual-headed airport manager, and
right.
So
that would be probably a question for John.
Yeah.
Do we have a functioning, active, at least 5-member committee right now, and we're adding 2 members to it? Is that what we're?
I believe so. This is supposed to
Thank you.
get it up to the full 7.
Thank you. That's all I got.
All right. So we have a motion to approve them.
Yeah, move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Deputy Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Deputy Mayor Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Irby,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
Councilmember Graber.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay. Next, there's no unfinished business. New business. Motion to go into committee of the whole to have a discussion regarding city clerk recruitment and option of appointing Deputy Clerk Benji Johnson as acting city clerk. Do we need a motion to? Sure. Why don't we take a short break before we do that?
All together.
Take some action. We have someone, council member, okay.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Mayor, I move we go into the committee of whole.
Second.
Second, okay. Deputy Clerk, if you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Graver,
Yes.
Councilmember Irby,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tudor,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. So I guess there, we're in the committee of the whole. And so with the position of clerk being open, that would be, the council would have to be the one that would kind of direct to advertise, et cetera. But then also, deputy clerk has some authority as deputy clerk, but I suspect it might be a little more simpler if she was acting clerk to allow for some of the processes to work right. Do you want to, does council have any questions they want to start with, or should we just go ahead and hear from Benji? Okay.
So I looked at the code, and
Okay.
from what I understand, the deputy clerk has signature authority in a temporary absence of the city clerk. As we know, this is not a temporary absence. We have no city clerk. And my concerns was with the election coming up, I have a lot of things that I need to do, and specifically candidate filing, where I'll have to be certifying if somebody's a viable, allowed to run or not. And we just thought it would be better for it to be me to be in the acting clerk position as opposed to a deputy clerk filling in. So that was our thought processes.
Okay. Councilmember Alcantara.
Well, speaking for myself, I like the thought process. I like an inspired acting city clerk that's going to respond to council members' questions and do the job that you're doing. So, yeah, I would think that would be a great step.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to agree that I think that placing our deputy clerk as acting clerk while we go through posting the job position, I do agree with that as well. With posting the job opening, then we would just have to make a motion then to the city manager.
Yeah, to direct the
post that.
manager.
To direct, okay.
She's in charge of HR, so.
Okay, perfect.
And I was just going to add that a couple things that would go with the acting title is I think there would be a bump in pay for her, as well as officially establishing she's working as an actual clerk, which, for her resume. And does clerks keep track of how many months that they've served as clerks versus deputy clerks? And it would be an advantage for her resume, so to speak.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you. I would like to expand on that a little bit about the bump in pay. I think as the clerk, deputy clerk, moving up to the clerk, I think that she should receive the full clerk's pay for the time that she's actually going to be doing all that clerk's work.
Councilmember Hudson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to agree with that while she is acting clerk. Is there any training or qualifications that she's missing legally for that title? I guess I just want to make sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, good question.
I know that in the job description, it does say CMC preferred, it's not required. As for the CMC, I actually have all the points to get the CMC. I just needed to be blessed by our international clerks people, which I was working on, and it's taking me a moment with everything going on. So if it puts anybody's mind at ease, I have reached the requirements. I'm just waiting for a blessing back from my IMC.
Councilmember Hudson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well then, if our attorney agrees, like legally, that would be okay, which it sounds like it should be fine, then I would agree that sounded like a good idea with all the work that she's gonna be putting in.
Okay. Madam Attorney?
Yes, I have no concerns with that. The one thing I wanted to flag, and I think the mayor already adequately did, is for clarification that if she's acting clerk, then she'll be serving under the council, and then not according to the employee regulations that the deputy has in the hybrid that would be accountable to the city manager. Just in terms of organizational structure, we don't necessarily have to issue a new contract, but it should be clarified that that would be part of the offer if that occurs.
I understand that, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. Councilmember Alcantara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I definitely want to pile on to what Councilmember Cooper and Councilmember Hudson had to say about that, about the full clerk's pay. Also, as acting city clerk, she would be able to determine any kind of temporary help she might need as far as hiring, not just the election employees, but other temporary employees to answer phones, go over the same, do a lot of the work that you are doing both jobs now. So we wouldn't have to be involved in that. That would be her priority, her prerogative to hire somebody if she needed assistance here in the next few months. Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions? Councilmember?
Your Honor, I too would like to echo that sentiment. She's going to be doing both jobs, so she should at least be getting paid the clerk's pay.
And Madam Manager, how long do you think the process would be to advertise, and it would be interviewing and everything else as far as a range, shall we say?
The clerk's role falls under the council, so I will take any direction that you want. If you want me to keep the posting open for 30 days, 60 days, I will do that, and then I will forward candidates on for your guys' review. We can use Rick at Soaring Bird for any candidate evaluations, and then much like my process, the interview would take place with the council and not necessarily with me in HR. So if you'd like me to keep it open for 30 days, 60 days, I can make that. If you man to make that decision tonight, I can do that.
Right. And I guess I was fishing a little bit for a timeline, but I guess part of what, in my mind, part of the timeline is there's an election process, which she starts it, then it's probably best if she finishes it, you know, to have that continuity. So you're looking at 5-6 months. Okay. So do we have yes, Ms.
I might add that under the council's discretion, you can just appoint Benji. We don't actually need to go out for a recruitment process
For the acting?
for the actual city clerk position, since she is an internal candidate.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of hear from Benji's perspective on that question.
Deputy Clerk.
So this is a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. I'm willing to take on the role. If certainly you go through schooling, you do the job. I've essentially worked for government for almost 30 years now. I look younger than I actually am. But I'm willing to take on that role. I'm willing to take on the responsibility. I would like the position. If you decided that's the route you want to go, if you want to go through the recruitment process, I would not be offended, and I understand that as well.
Councilmember Hudson. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I had my mic on, but I wasn't ready.
Okay.
Sorry.
So to take any action will come out of committee of the whole, but is there any more discussion?
Can I?
Yes, Madam Attorney.
I'm like raising my hand.
Yeah, sorry, I should be looking down here.
No problem. So just in terms of since I'll be drafting a contract eventually that will be publicly released to whomever the new clerk is, I just want to make sure if there is any motions once you get out of committee of the whole, or I could say this before or after, make sure that that includes the line of authority and then termination of convenience or just some basic initial concepts whenever anything is going to be offered, just so that you have some guidelines. Everybody does, for whether it's 0 months or indefinitely.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So we ready to come out of committee of the whole? Councilmember Graber? You're not on. There you go.
Sorry, I turned it off again. If we were to move to appoint Deputy Clerk Johnson, what would that process look like? I mean, she would have to accept it, correct?
Yes, would it be direct the attorney to work on a contract too?
Yes. Quick, let's go in the back room and hammer something out. We're both over here like, how are we going to do this?
Or would we make her acting clerk and then plan to revisit this at the next meeting?
I think you could do an immediate acting clerk under the understanding that she now reports directly to you, and every previous employment benefits. So you no longer would be qualifying for disciplinary or hearings, for that that employees do that aren't at will. You could be, like I always say, I can get fired for the color of my hair. If I have a bad hair dye, the council can get rid of me. So that chain of command shifts, and then agree on the pay, and then perhaps schedule an executive session on the first if you want it, because you haven't had the council has not had an opportunity to kind of negotiate terms. And so maybe do an executive session with the intent to do something and do negotiated terms, and then you could decide what you'd like at that point.
That was going to be my suggestion, is to come out of committee of the whole, make the motion with a timeline, like appoint Benji Johnson acting for so many days to give time for that sort of thing, logistically.
Okay. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, I do like your suggestion about the election. So would we be able to do that, give that acting role for several months, and then we could schedule a meeting to go into executive session and look at formalizing that, or just kind of throwing that out there as an option?
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you. So I just want to clarify what you had said a good recommendation would be, which also I think Mayor Carrington kind of brought it up, that basically the next meeting, or we would have to have it on 2 agendas. So it would be, because do we have a meeting on the 24th, and then, so are you saying we should have it on the agenda for the meeting on the 24th, or for after that? Would we need 1 or 2 meetings? Does that make sense?
Madam Attorney.
That's a parliamentary question.
Go.
I believe for that, it would just be 1 meeting, because it's not, you're not introducing it like you would an ordinance. So it can be taken care of in 1 meeting. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you. So I'm thinking kind of along the same lines of what the attorney had suggested with, and then having the executive session on the June 24th meeting to discuss that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? We ready to come out of committee of the whole? Okay, we're out of committee of the whole. Do we have a motion we want to make?
Agenda, I mean, for the next thing you can
Okay. You ready?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
Councilmember Hudson.
Okay. I'm gonna try not to forget anything. I make a motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion to appoint Deputy Clerk Benji Johnson as our acting City of Palmer clerk for 2 weeks, or until June 24th, 2025, where then we will have an executive session for the intent to hire, do I need to say that? To negotiate a contract with her. Do I need to say to become that clerk? To become the clerk. With the understanding that until the executive session, she'll report solely to the council with no employee benefits except for healthcare and at the pay of the current clerk.
Okay. Is that a second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Clarification?
May I add one thing?
Yes, Matt, if that's okay, Madam Attorney?
Is that okay? Could we say either June 24th or at the next available executive meeting, in the event something happens and you guys can't do it and you need to bump the executive meeting, it would be until an executive meeting could be held. Executive session.
Through the month of June.
But unless it gets up to July. So I've just meant, I don't know what's going to come up, but then you'd have to, it's totally voided then. So you would need to start all over. So you might want to give yourself a little bit of a cushion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Alcantara.
I really appreciated the attorney making sure that we're getting all the stuff looped in there, kind of the Cyrano de Bergerac of motions over here. But I wonder if we're being a little too prescriptive. We could just say, make a motion to make Ms. Johnson the acting city clerk and just say, until a contract is brought forward. We could say until October 31st. We could put a date on there. I don't know if, I hate to say June 24th, have this meeting, this happened, and then have it not happen. It seems we're being a little constrictive in what we're doing, and I think we just make a more general motion saying that she's the acting city clerk until October 31st. All the election things will be sewed up, and I'm confident with a known quality that things will work out in the same way.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Hudson. Oh, wait, no, Councilmember Graver, she has tried to speak a few times.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually, my light was on at the very first to say something similar, so could I move to amend Councilwoman Hudson's motion to change that deadline to October 31st? Or since I seconded it, then you would have to agree to that amendment?
Would you,
Is that correct?
Councilman Hudson, would you concur with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask for someone to read it back.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that there was some concerns with some overlap of her previous contract, that we were saying it out loud for the motion so that those part of the contracts were terminated and she was under these new terms until that executive session occurs, is the reason that we were saying it that way.
Sorry.
So do we know what we're voting?
I was gonna say, so here's what I gleaned from all that.
Okay.
So we're moving to approve Deputy Clerk Benji Johnson to acting clerk until October 31st. Before then, there would be an executive session, preferably on June 24th, with the intent for a contract negotiation, with the understanding that my deputy clerk position and protections have been eliminated, and I'm now an at-will employee of the council.
I am happy with that, thank you.
Does that sound good? Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Yes.
So if you call the roll for the amended motion.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Graber,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
Councilmember Erby.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Okay. Next is committee of the whole for discussion regarding possible changes to residency requirements for city manager and directors. Do we have a motion?
Do we have to move to go back in committee of the whole again?
Yes, this is a different committee of the whole.
Move to go, return to committee of the whole.
Second.
All right.
Councilmember Graber,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Erby,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Unanimous.
And if you looked at my mayor's report, I did a little bit of research and discovered how Kodiak had put it on their ballot to change the charter, and then it failed for changing the residency requirement. And my suggestion is to consider looking at our water sewer district as the boundaries, because we're responsible for some parts of that whole area, which makes it, at least to me, a little more palatable. But anyway, it's an open discussion. Deputy Mayor Tudor.
I think it's right. Yeah, I had a question about that. Is that a legal boundary, or is that just something that we refer to? Because I was wondering if we.
That's a legal boundary with the Regulatory Commission of Alaska.
Okay, and so it doesn't change as we put in.
Unless the RCA changes it.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure. Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd have the discussion. I'm going to find myself a little bit on the odd man out on this one, potentially. I have to look at my city manager in the eyes all the way across the room. And I totally understand why people in the chief and above directors and city manager position would want to have options of where to live, especially in 2025, where everything seems to be getting snapped up quickly. I'm a old school guy, and I think back of the years that I've been emergency management director for the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and reflect back on getting calls at 12:23 a.m. and being at the incident command center at 12:29 a.m. That's a part of living a mile and a half from the borough building. Ironically, I live about that same distance from City Hall now. But I do think for the top end folks, which I believe there's only 5 plus our city managers, there's about 6 employees out of around 75 that are the top end department heads. They're the Jews, they're the police chiefs, they're the fire chiefs, they're the incident management team. They're the folks that we need here quickly, and not to be coming in from Chugiak or Wasilla or Big Lake. And I understand, I believe in history, you had a city manager living out in Big Lake for amount of time. But I do say proceed a little bit with caution. I do like the suggestion that the mayor made about the water service area. It certainly opens up a lot of places where these employees that we pay low 6 figures to about 140 grand a year to, those are kind of employees that don't have to constrict themselves to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath city house. They can go out and get 5 or 10 acres of land and maybe have a horse or some cattle or whatever they want to do. And I don't want to dissuade anybody from doing that, but I also don't want people being too far away from where, when the earthquake happens, when the severe storms happen, I want people that are going to be able to respond as quickly as they can. So, especially the top end employees. I'm not saying we restrict people that are, the other 70-ish employees of the city of Palmer, but I think our department heads, and our city manager, if they were restricted to, and I don't think we can change the city manager without a vote, but even our department heads, if they were restricted to the water sewer service area boundary, that's probably something, an olive branch or something I could live with. I mean, the old school part of me says, no way, man, people need to live in the city or within this 5-mile limit, but in reality, our water service area, even out to the hospital, if I was a betting man, I'd say the drive's about 6.5 miles, so it wouldn't be that much of an extension of what already exists. So my 2 cents anyway.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that my opinion on the situation and what I've also heard in talking to the constituents is that I do know that annexation is always something that's kind of been on the table for the city. And also that I do believe that the water sewer boundaries, though, can still be updated with, is it the RCA that you mentioned? Mr. Mayor, was that?
Yes.
Okay, so those can always be updated anytime that there is water sewer expansion. So if we already know that the water sewer, there's new lines being put in and things are being expanded, my concern is then when it is expanded to the boundary, then we might as well have allowed everybody who is a resident of a Palmer address to have applied for these positions. My concern is that even though like outside of Palmer proper, those like 5.4 square miles or whatever, if you do exceed it to the water sewer boundaries, what I'm basically saying is then you might as well say if somebody has a Palmer address with a Palmer zip code, then not the city council, right? And I'm not even saying specifically the city manager position, but what I am saying is that the department directors, the fire chief and the police chief, if they say, I live in the city of Palmer and I'm the fire chief, I don't believe that a regular constituent is going to go up and be concerned if they live within the 5.4 square miles or the water sewer boundary. You know, I just think it's like saying that you're from that city and you work for your city, you know? So I think that we could even just say, if you live within the city, you can apply for a city position. Especially if we know that annexation is something that has been on the table for conversation that we're wanting to consider in the future. Then I just see that if that ever did go through with the voters, then we're back here again, just expanding it again. So that's just kind of where I'm at.
Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you. If I can clarify, when you say live in the city of Palmer, do you mean like the zip code, or do you mean like, or do you just mean like if they say like on the mailing address it's Palmer? I'm just trying to see how we define that.
Mr. Mayor, may I answer?
Yes, Councilmember Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what I'm saying is that not if you get a P.O. box at the Palmer at the Palmer post office. What I mean is that you can prove that you're a resident of the city of Palmer, meaning that you reside in a home with a Palmer address. 99645. Yeah, zip code. Yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Irby.
Yes, Your Honor, I agree that the water sewer service boundary would make a great limit. The actual city limits is quite small, and the real estate availability can be quite limited, you know, especially for someone that's wanting to be our manager or whatever. And the water sewer service boundary is basically what we're trying to annex. But the addresses, there are people that live on Finger Lake that have 99645 addresses, and they're not going to be ever annexed into Palmer. So I would agree with the water sewer service boundary as being qualifying for hires.
And I should probably try to make clear for those in the audience that our city manager is required by our charter. The charter can only be changed by the voters. So that's part of the reason to kind of bring up this discussion now, because if we want to put this on the election for October, I think the deadline is July, end of July?
Correct. It would need to be introduced at the July 8th meeting and then approved or passed at the July 22nd meeting.
And that would be basically a resolution to put it on the ballot, and then we'd see. We'd see how it goes from there. I believe the other ones are, the department heads, I think, are ordinances that the council can change, but the one for the city managers are contained in our charter. Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only concern in saying that and knowing that, the water sewer boundary lines are expanded and they are updated in that system, is that then we know that there's already been, again, in the works with the borough and another sister city, has already been discussing plans to connect to Palmer water sewer. So then we're going to have to go back and say again, oh, well, actually, we retract that because now it's Palmer and Wasilla water and sewer connection. So then they can live in Wasilla as well. So we're going to have to go and change that anyways if we continue following that and things, continue to be done behind our back. So.
Well, the process for getting anything changed with the Regulatory Commission of Alaska is, it's a state agency. I believe it was Mayor Cooper that worked to get this one here, and it was essentially, we were arguing with Wasilla over where that border would be. And I think the hospital was actually the goal of the thing. So it's not something that happens easily, and it's it used to be Alaska Public Utilities Commission, now it's the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. But anyway,
yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Cooper. Then
Thank
Graver.
you. You're absolutely correct. Back in the early 2000s is when we actually got that done. But I think just to clarify, if there's a concern about moving the boundary, what we would put into the comments, or the question on the ballot would be the current sewer and water boundaries as defined by a certain date, and leave it as such, and that would be it, for eternity.
Okay, Councilmember Graver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Councilman Cooper's comment. That I think that would be a good solution to that specific issue. I'm just thinking out loud, basically, but looking at our water and sewer boundary, there's also a lot of people that live across the bridge in the Lazy Mountain area, to a certain extent, obviously, that are very invested in the city of Palmer and might, I don't know, it feels like cutting them out a little bit to me. And I don't know if, Mr. Mayor, your proposed reason for not doing the certain amount of road miles is because the city of Kodiak didn't have success with that method, but I would suggest maybe changing the requirement to maybe a 5 to 8 mile limit. That's my thought.
Okay, Madam Attorney.
I just wanted to add some definitional pieces. So right now in our ordinances, it's all department heads within 5 circular nautical miles and within 180 days. And then the city manager needs to be a resident of the city limits of Palmer. The other question in terms of when you define the Palmer water sewer boundary is we have several subdivisions that have either opted in or opted out of utilizing Palmer City utilities. Some of those are areas that could, I'm just trying to think about how to defend this in court in the future. And when you talk about definitions, so it's like, what if it's within that area, but the area across the street has opted in, or that subdivision is annexed in, and it's not modified, but that's a neighborhood. We're talking neighborhoods. So it does get rather complex, the definition. There is a lot of neighborhoods excluded, and then other ones that have incorporated in. So just for your consideration.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, so you're, Madam Attorney, you're speaking specifically to the water sewer district option?
That's correct. It would have to be very strictly defined.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, follow up.
Councilmember Graver.
Oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. So are we separating the manager requirements from the department head requirements? Because the manager requirements do need to be voted on, put that on the ballot, and then the department heads can be discussed separately. I feel like, I know the department heads have a different requirement right now than the city manager, so should we separate those two and discuss them differently?
Correct, but it's committee of the whole, so we can kind of have discussions. I would also comment, I believe the city clerk is lumped in with the department heads as far as the 5 miles, if I remember right. So, Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Interesting discussion, and it's interesting that what exists now for the department heads and the city clerk actually takes care of the situation that Councilmember Graver is talking about, which is it's 5 miles from within city limits. So I almost wonder if what exists for our department heads now is almost a better scenario than a potential changing Palmer Water service area. I appreciate that you could say as of October 7th, 2025, this is the boundary. But 5 miles from city limits, number one, you can measure it out and determine where you're able to go. And if we annex a bunch of area into the city, then that 5 miles from within city limits expands out even further for people down the road. So I often wondered, maybe we shouldn't worry about department heads right now unless our city manager thinks it's a real issue, and maybe we should put something on the ballot in July for October for our city manager, and if that gets approved, then we have everybody kind of singing off that same sheet of music of got to be 5 miles from city limits, which I think incorporates most of that map I'm looking at. I don't know how much the public can see that map, but when you get to the city limit boundaries, some of those things are, you're going to be able to go up Lazy Mountain if you want to go up Lazy Mountain. You're going to be able to go effectively halfway out to the Butte. You can get Smith Road, Mott Road, some of those places out there. You get a lot when you say 5 miles from the city limits instead of 5 miles from City Hall. You pick up distance on both sides. So I almost wonder if it's a problem in search of a solution, or if we already have a solution in front of us and we just have to make it work for our city manager, who will not have been on the job but a little more than 5 months by the time the election rolls around. So I just throw that out there.
Madam Manager.
Thank you. While this does pertain to my position, I won't speak to it because I would be a beneficiary. However, I will speak to the provision for the directors. I can tell you we are recruiting for several high-profile positions here. Police chief is being one of them, fire chief, community development director. This provision is impacting internal candidates from either applying or they have applied and will not be able to accept the position. So we are stymieing career progression. We are arbitrarily stopping the advancement of department knowledge because of this. Someone who lives 6 miles outside of city limits is not going to relocate their family for 1 mile when they're already here. They've invested themselves into the community for years. I don't believe that we should have that for the department directors. You can live in Palmer and respond appropriately. We have technology that allows us to do this. Mr. Cooper's online right now in a different state. This is why we move on with the times. So I would absolutely support removing that residency requirement for the directors so that we don't lose our internal candidates and we don't lose that talent. But then we also can recruit elsewhere. If there aren't internal candidates, we can expand and broaden our talent pool. More people are more likely going to apply for these larger positions when they have the opportunity. They don't have to relocate. They can live in Hatcher Pass, they can live in the Butte, and they can still serve the city of Palmer.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I appreciate your words there. I think it's definitely a delicate balance, because when I read the intent of this, I believe the intent was that the department heads and the city manager will be more careful about what they do, because this is where they live, this is their home. So we definitely want to make sure that we're both keeping up with the times, because I understand, I know like my workforce is all remote and they do an excellent job, and it is one of those things where if you cast a wider net, you get more fish, so I totally understand that. Kind of directed to the attorney, I'm really a big fan of the keep it simple stupid method. So what's the easiest for you, should this come up in court or anything like that, what's the easiest for you as far as a definition to defend?
No definition is always helpful, or it could be completely eliminated so I don't have to defend it. That's the easiest. But if you were going to amend it, I think, a mileage as the crow flies is helpful, so you have this city mile marker, and then it goes out that way. But as I was thinking about defense, it is to the council's discretion, but what the city manager brought up in terms of we're potentially harboring career progression within the city of Palmer based on a mileage cap, that's a concern. I was just, because as it is now, everyone has to evaluate, where do I actually live? I never thought about it. I know I can be in Palmer in 7 minutes, but am I 4.5 miles or 5 miles or something to that effect? And that seems like an awful high burden at this time.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also just wanted to agree with what our city manager had brought forward. I did want to say, Councilman Alcantara, I do think that this is extremely important that we discuss where the directors of the city can reside right now. There has been, we've discussed it publicly, there has been a really big turnover right now with retirements and other things that have gone on in the city. And I think that if we have people that are applying, especially more than likely people who have worked for the city for a long time that are prepared to do the job. A lot of times when you know that somebody's going to retire and you're next in line for the job, you're preparing, and not knowing something like this, I just think that with that being said, and then also I think the other point is that the city of Palmer is growing a lot. There's been a lot of new employees. For instance, recently, in the last decade, that the city clerk of Palmer even became a position, and then the deputy clerk became a position. So then there's 2 more people that have to live in a house in 5.4 square miles. And then how much has public works grown, or even the office, like all of these positions, how much the city is growing and how many more people are coming to live here in Palmer, and new families, and all these people have things that they could bring to the city that could be a positive impact for us, that have, talents and things, and they want to apply for these positions and they can't, even though they live in Palmer and they want to be a part of things going on in Palmer. So I just think that that's something very important to consider.
Madam Attorney.
Yes, I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if council was aware, but in terms of accountability and terminating a department head, we have that defined in code. Our department heads are at will, so they get terminated through the process of the city manager in consultation with HR and with the city attorney. So if that is a uniform standard, non-responsiveness or something like that is a concern, that is something that is, you don't have the same protections built in place as other departments. The department heads don't. So that's what our code says. A city manager in consultation with HR and the city attorney.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly don't want to make things more difficult for our city manager coming into kind of a firestorm of police chiefs, fire chiefs, and other things to work with. I guess, as I mentioned to one of the audience members, and everybody here knows, I work for the Don Young Alaska Job Corps Center, about 98 employees here in Palmer, and a handful that reverse commute from Anchorage. But I'm trying to avoid, without eliminating maybe the best candidate for the job, is I'm trying to avoid those. I was trying to avoid people being really far away from City Hall when all heck breaks loose, but the city manager did a good job of saying, we live in a different world than we did 25 years ago. We're going to get people on Zoom and this and that and the other thing when everything's working, but bridges collapse, things happen. I mean, you go watch, though, the earth be moved, the 1964 earthquake video, and see what happens to Anchorage and Seward and Kodiak and other places. So disaster preparation is real, and we need to take that into account. And I guess I am worried that with no boundaries at all or no parameters at all for those 6 positions, that could end up a situation where, hey, this lady from Anchorage was the best, in case of our city manager, and this guy from Anchorage might be the best fire chief, and this other lady from Anchorage might be the best police chief. And I don't want to see a bunch of our top-end employees reverse commuting from Anchorage until they decide that they're just going to get tired of it and either not do it anymore or potentially buy a house in Palmer. So I'm one to not want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, let's just not have any rules at all except for our city manager. But I can understand the other side, and when you talk about people, even our acting city manager living up Palmer Fishhook, or people living in the Butte, or people living someplace where they got to worry about, hey, I'm not going to apply, and especially if we're squashing people from being able to move up in the ranks because they're 6 or 8 or 10 miles away. It seems like there could be a way to get there, but I'm not sure what the magic bullet really is.
Councilmember Irby.
Yeah, I just wanted to say for the record that the city of Palmer is never going to cross the river. We won't be able to supply them with water or sewer treatment, so that we will never annex across the river, so they will never be Palmer citizens.
Well, the point of this item was to have a discussion. I think we've had a fairly robust discussion. We can come out of the committee of the whole. I don't know. The one with the residency requirement for the manager, because it's based in charter, that's the one that's kind of got a time-sensitive thing to it. I don't know if we have enough agreement that we want to, direct the attorney to help us draft something that we could consider later, or Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When is the deadline for that? When do we have to have something?
She said July. So the first meeting, the second week of July, you have to have the intro, and the 4th Tuesday, you have to adopt a resolution to put it on the.
Yeah, I just feel compelled to say too. I just want to say I appreciate that you saw that this had failed in your city, and so you were brainstorming on possible solutions. I appreciate you thinking about that. Thank you.
Should point out, I think they tried to go from a city residency requirement to 12 miles, I think, outside the city. So, but Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. After we exit committee of the whole, I'm still would like to be prepared to bring forward a motion for vote regarding the director's residency.
Okay, those are all contained in ordinances, so, I mean,
isn't the residency of the department director specifically just a motion with a code change that we would have to bring forward?
Right. I guess I'm suggesting it would probably be we'd have a vote to direct the attorney or whoever to come up with changes for the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready to come out? Councilmember Graver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to comment, I guess, that listening to everyone's comments and thoughts on this, trying to see both sides of it, my preference would be that like Councilman Alcantara said, not to completely remove those boundaries, and especially since for the department directors, the requirement is that they reside within 5 miles of the city limits within 180 days of hire. So it's not that we can't hire someone from outside the city at all. It's just that they have to, within 180 days, move into that specific area. I would not be opposed to, for the department directors, extending that to maybe 8 or 10 miles. And I just thought I would comment that. And then also for the city manager, obviously it's up to the voters to decide, but I would extend that at least 5 miles. And I think the attorney mentioned that as the crow flies is the best way to phrase that as far as liability issues, but I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Any other? Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Okay. Just for note, Sandy, if that is the motion, we should do 10 and not 8, just so it's an even 5. Thank you. It's going to drive me nuts if it's 8.
Member challenge, right? Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to agree with the department directors, the fire chief and the police chief within the 10 miles. I would agree.
Okay. Are we ready to come out of committee of the whole? Okay. We are out of the committee of the whole. Is there any action?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Graver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion that we direct the city attorney to draft a change to Palmer Municipal Code 4.15.060 Residency B that to the effect that the city clerk, all department directors, fire chief, and the police chief shall reside within 10 miles of the city limits within 180 days of hire.
Okay.
I support
Is there
that.
a second? Okay, there's a second. Is there any discussion on that? Councilmember Graver, your light's on, so did you have more?
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to
Mr. Mayor,
direct.
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Cooper.
I wonder if someone can point out to me where actually is 10 miles? Are we encroaching on the city of Wasilla at that point, or is that a concern?
Councilmember Hudson.
Sorry, I should add, as the crow flies, 10 miles
Okay.
from the city limits.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe to also amend it to state also within the city of Palmer. Do we need to? He was just saying that he thinks that from here to 10 miles could enter the city of Wasilla. So I was just saying to amend it to also say 10 miles and within the city of Palmer, so that they can't be 10 miles in the city of Wasilla.
Within the city of Palmer is vague.
Very.
Okay.
If I may, I would like to.
Madam Attorney.
Thank you. I can propose a draft, but I'd like to have a map attached to all of it so we understand what we're clarifying. Because so far, there's been 3 various suggestions for definitions that have come up, and so I could, but based on the 10 miles and as the crow flies definition, that would be the hard limit.
Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Graver.
I'm sorry to do this to Josh, but can I amend that to 8 miles, because that's my original thought, and I feel like that does get really close to Wasilla, and I would rather not have that, and I think that's more appropriate.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend to 8 miles. Does the
If I may I present the council with a few options? Because if we could look at maps, that would be helpful. We could have something limiting it at the bridge, the Connect River Bridge. There's not a lot of housing out there in the event of an emergency. That could be an option. We could also say 10 miles, but not within a sister city, city limits. Those are a couple of variations I could offer the council with a map associated, so you would know what subdivisions are we actually discussing? Because you could go 10 miles up to Hatchers with no problem, but, you know, maybe as a crow flies, but then maybe city you're entering. So we could put a caveat, not entering sister city of Wasilla. So if you don't mind, there's a few variations I could offer. I can think of at least 3.
Okay. So the motion was for 10 miles. Do you want to amend that to?
Yes,
I'm coming up with some options.
The reason we're bringing it to the attorney is to have all those issues worked out. I'm not set on exactly that. I'm open to, you know, I don't want us to be liable, and I want it to be appropriate, and so.
So where are we at with this motion? Is the attorney?
Should I rescind it all and start over? Okay, I rescind
You
all.
want to withdraw the motion?
Withdraw. Thank you.
You concur? You're the second.
Yes, I concur, and then can I?
Okay, Councilmember Hudson?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment really quickly. I agree within 10 miles, and just not, did you say encroaching?
I think the attorney's coming up with options.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify the option, not encroaching on our sister city or how that was worded exactly. I think I would agree with that, which is what I was trying to say before, was 10 miles, but just not encroaching on our sister cities of Wasilla.
Okay, there's no motion on the floor. Councilmember Alcantara.
I know, I hate to wade in, Mr. Mayor, but thank you. To answer Councilmember Cooper's question, yes, 10 miles from city limits would put you into Wasilla. I suggest that the 8-mile radius is probably going to keep you out of trouble. What I would suggest to the attorney, what's going to get you in a lot of trouble, is if you try to eliminate places that are inside either the 10 or 8-mile boundary, because the Connect River Bridge might fall down, and so you can't have people on Connect River Road. You draw something from city limits, you say 8 miles or you say 10, anybody and everybody, our city manager goes, steals Wasilla's police chief if she wants, whatever has to happen. But you don't want to get in a situation where you're saying, hey, it's 10 miles except if you live in Wasilla. Hey, it's 10 miles except you live off Connect River Road. You have to decide where the mileage is going to be and stick with that so it's justifiable. And whether it's 8 miles or whether it's 10 miles, but you can't go eliminating subdivisions or eliminating cities because they fall within what we decide to do. So I'm, along with Councilmember Graver, I think I'm a little more fan of a little bit of shorter distance and not worrying about that kind of thing. So final thoughts.
Councilmember Irby.
Yeah, Councilmember Alcantara brought up some really, really great points. You know, if you have as a crow flies from the city limits, you're going to have someone that's going to be in this house and right across the street, they're not eligible. Whereas, like I said, the Palmer Water Sewer Service boundary, that's legally defined. We know what houses are and what individuals would be eligible. I mean, it's just straightforward.
Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My concern really is that we have a great and amazing group of people that live out on the Butte area that then live in Palmer. They live in a different subsection of Palmer, just like you say, oh, the people over, like us, oh, the people over on Golcana, or, you know, the people over by Palmer or Sheridan Swanson. Oh, I live over by Palmer High School or Palmer Middle School. You know what I mean? Like, there's areas where people live. And some people that really care about the city of Palmer, that are at a lot of city of Palmer events, and some that even work for the city that live in the Butte. And so then you're excluding that whole group of people by a water sewer boundary because those people choose to pay to dig their own well and get their own water. You know, and that's kind of a sad situation to consider. So that I really don't agree with that. You know, we want these people to serve the city when they're volunteer firefighters that live in the city, or, you know, they're police officers, or they work for, you know, public works, and then they move up the ranks, and then we say, oh, actually, you can't do this anymore because you live in the Butte over there and you have your own well. You know, that's kind of sad.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you. For everybody's education, I'm sure all you have to do is go next door and look at the name on that building of the fire department. It's Dan Cantini. He lived in Lazy Mountain and as our fire chief. So I understand what Councilman Irby is talking about. I would agree with that for the city manager, but I think that everybody else is saying that whether it's 5, 8, or 10 miles from the city limits, I think that's what we should do for our department heads.
Before we go much further, as the parliamentarian, we came out of committee of the whole.
Yes.
We don't have a motion on the floor.
True.
So where are we in our agenda? Can we either go back into the committee of the whole, or somebody make a motion? Where are we? I mean, you can all just say, we agree to go back into committee of the whole, and I think that's good enough. I just need to make sure where we are. Sorry, I like rules.
Shall I make a motion, or should I try
Council-
again? Or
Councilmember
do we need
Graber.
to discuss more?
Councilmember Graber.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, let me try this again. I would like to make a motion to direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance change to PMC 4.15.060 Residency B. I don't want to specifically
With her
say-
recommended.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
distance.
Exactly. Okay, so with her recommended distance and restrictions for the city clerk, all department directors, the fire chief, and the police chief for the residents within 180 days of hire.
Is there a second?
Is that clear enough?
Was it
Is there
8
a
or 10
second?
miles?
She said up to the city attorney.
Oh, okay. Second.
Okay. We can discuss it now, but it's going to come back to us and the discussion will happen again. Is the attorney clear?
The attorney is clear, so the attorney will give you a minimum of 4 options. I've highlighted the different ones that have been proposed. They'll be with attached maps, and then that can be, I'll give that to the clerk. I'll get that in the next week so that can be given to the clerk and sent out, and then there could be future conversation on it.
Okay.
So,
Councilmember
and
Hudson.
to clarify, the 4, as I've been listening to everyone share, the 4 options is removal of it entirely, 8 miles, 10 miles, or the Palmer Water Sewer boundary. And there'll be attached maps with each of those.
Okay. So this is directing the attorney?
Yes, because it's a direction, I don't think we need to vote.
Yeah, we do.
I wasn't sure, because it
Well,
can come back with an ordinance.
true. Well, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote on this just to close the front door, maybe.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, Councilmember Graver,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, I just lost that, Shooter.
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Irby,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. So now we will proceed on to record of items placed on the table.
We had a pamphlet from Batsu Health Foundation and some documents from Jackie Goforth.
Okay. Next is audience participation. We will open audience participation. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward and give us your name, and then you have 3 minutes.
You may need to turn that microphone back on.
It's on the very back, like on the bottom.
Yeah, hold it for a couple seconds. There you go. There we go.
That good?
Yep, excellent.
Thank you. Trying to respect your time limits. To give the council an understanding which probably may not have happened in 2017. So distance between the track and one of our residents' bedroom windows is 30 feet. This is a 100,000-pound pressure vessel operating within 30 feet of a human being by people who are not professionals. These are all hobbyists, they're amateurs. This is the reason why they're involved in what they're doing. It's remarkable that they've got it done. I have nothing against what's happening with 557. Mr. Durant has stated that the Alaska Railroad is a staunch supporter, but the Alaska Railroad will not support providing track space for you. And there's a reason for it. It doesn't have the required safety equipment. And he probably won't when he wants to test it on this spur between the intersection of the Glen Highway point and the airport. That engine has to be brought to that spur by the Alaska Railroad engine because it does not have safety equipment. They're going to train people on that spur. So now the communities are a testing area and a training environment. Seems to me that's asking a lot with respect to respecting the communities and the liability associated if something goes wrong. As the president of the board of directors and the board of directors, we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect our property by state law. The council obviously didn't respect the fact that we had an opinion on how this is going to affect our property values. I, as a board member, as well as the rest, we have a moral obligation to see to the well-being of our residents. The council didn't take that in regard either. All I am asking here is that one clause in that resolution be simply rescinded. The resolution is a great resolution for recognizing the efforts of what's happening and what they did with 557. I personally know the major contributors of 557. And I'm not sure that they were ever made aware of what their intention was with respect to the residents and how it would impact those residents. Because, one more comment. What I'm asking is I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. Rescind that one provision. The resolution is a fine resolution, but it failed to take consideration of community members. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council members. Clerk, wish to add this?
Sure.
Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Here we go. I am Luke Zipsky. I am your current acting/interim, whatever you want to call me, police chief. I'm here to talk to you about what you guys were just discussing about the boundary. So it was alluded to that we have some internal candidates that don't live inside that current restrictions of 5 miles. You're missing out on a great talent pool. And I'm not speaking about myself, I'm speaking about somebody else that's applied. I do not meet the requirements. I've lived where I live for about 7 years now. I can't afford to move into Palmer. I can't afford to move into that 5 miles because of the housing market. But I can tell you that I've been serving Palmer since 2001. I was on Palmer Ambulance, and then I was a dispatcher for 2.5 years, and I've been working as a law enforcement officer since 2009 here. That doesn't mean I don't care about this community, and I know that everybody that comes to work for Palmer loves Palmer. They want to serve Palmer, and yeah, when we try and grow a little bit and go up in the ladder, we see there are certain restrictions, but this one's a real tough one to swallow because there's nothing we can do about it right now. You know, it's the nature of the beast of the residency. Somebody's has been established where they've been living for so long, And now if they want to move up, they've got to uproot their entire family to move closer to town. You mentioned, sir, Mr. Alcantara, or Councilmember Alcantara, that the emergency response is going to get that call in the middle of the night. The way we have it set up at the Palmer Police Department, right, those calls don't go to my boss, don't go to the chief. They're going to go to my sergeants because they're well-equipped and capable individuals to handle those emergencies. When that problem gets a little bit too big, they call me the commander when I get to play that role. And when it gets big, we call the chief, and then he rolls in. So the emergency response is there anymore because we've trained all of our people below us and above us to do the job that we need to do. If I'm out on the other side of the bridge and it goes down, I well believe that my sergeants are capable of handling everything that I need to do. The sergeant or the chief is also going to know that if he's out of town, that we're more than capable of handling anything that we need to. And if it gets that bad, well, everyone else is getting called too. So we'll all roll in and handle what we need to. So my recommendation, and I've heard a couple times, is as the bird flies, gives us a large swath of area that we can keep that large talent pool available to us, whether it's an internal or an external hire. I would say the 10 miles. I understand where you're talking about. You don't want to go inside the city limits of Palmer, but if they're in Wasilla and they're wanting to work for Palmer, that says something, because Wasilla pays a lot higher than we do, and if they care about that community over here, that they're living there, just because that's where they happen to live, it should say something to you guys. It should say a lot about who that person is. Now, I don't think anybody on the department actually lives inside the city limits, but they live a little bit farther away. So I'll come back when you guys talk about it later.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Nathaniel Lutz, often referred to as Nate. That one's for you, city manager. I think you guys are familiar with everybody that has been department heads or acting in some fashion. So I'll just name a couple names. Myself, Nathaniel Lutz, acting community development director. John Diamante, airport superintendent, also was the acting interim city manager. Jude Bellafor, actual public works director. Mr. Luke behind me, acting. Those are all people that have been acting directors or active as we are today, and they all live outside that boundary that you guys are discussing. I suggest you take that into a serious consideration, because I think you all would agree, well, maybe just Jude, right? They're all doing a very good job, and we all very much care about this community, deep and deep. I live in Hatcher Pass, mile 3 at Palmer Fishhook. And if you look at that map, right above on the north side is Trunk and Palmer Fishhook. I live exactly a half mile north of that intersection. So if you take into effect the water sewer, I'm out. So there's that. That includes Jude. So I guess that's an early retirement for him. Yeah, I parrot that if you care, we'll be here. I don't suggest Anchorage, right? That's fine. I've done it. I was a building manager for the state of Alaska in support of the Army National Guard, and I was getting phone calls, and boy, was I there in time. Now, I don't suggest that. I agree that you guys need to make an intelligible decision about distances, but I think 10 miles is perfectly agreeable. That covers Butte, that covers Kinnick, that covers Hatcher Pass, and that covers all the way to the edge of City of Wasilla. And another, if you look at that map up there, see that vacuous white space? Nobody can live there. But that takes up, I don't know, 50% of that space. So I suggest you should take that in consideration as well. Because it might be a big space on that map, but it's vacuous, and nobody can live there. Thank you for your listening abilities. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else for audience participation?
evening again, City Council and Mayor. My name is Jackie Goforth. I want you to know I'm a retired level EAS, that's Executive Administrative Salary, level 20, United States Postal Service, and they only go to 26. I was fairly high, and my stations were always in Anchorage. Because talent is what matters, and they know you can Zoom, and they know the people underneath you are well-trained. So let's take that into consideration. I also want you to know that I was the #1 ranked route examiner for the Colorado and Wyoming district, so I know exactly how to look at something and decide what I'm seeing, which is why I wrote that report. And I want you to know that the 3 days that I spent watching the canvassing, I have never seen such integrity and well-run operation in my life. That's why I didn't go down there and canvass or watch the canvassing this time. I watched it go a complete 180. What happened at the poll was completely different than what happened at the canvassing, and I can't commend those employees enough. And the last thing I want to talk about, of course, is the books. You know, there are people who will come up here and with authority in their voices will say there's no such thing as pornography in the libraries. And because they have alphabet after their name and they talk like that, they think it's true. It's not true. Pornography is synonymous with obscenity. It's the same thing. And if you look at the settlement for the Matsu School Board, the Matsu School Board took out 56 books. Do you remember that? Because there was a settlement, and the judge agreed with it. The law agreed with it. 49 books went back. 7 did not. 7 books did not go back. Do you know why? Because that committee, made up of 11 members, including 4 school board members, found them unanimously to be obscene. And some of those people are actually up here saying to you, there's no such thing as obscenity in the library, when they found that. Now, to have those books in the library, if they are checked out to anyone under 16, it is a Class C felony. One of them is Verity. I'm giving you the list of the 7. And that judge agreed with it. And one of them wasn't unanimous. It was 9-1. So unanimous or really close to unanimous, if the community finds it obscene, then the books are obscene. And so there are books in our libraries that are obscene, legally, and they will be found that way legally because all of this stuff that the library board or the library committee has been doing is making the evidence to support the case when it is brought. When someone does check out that book to a minor and the parent does file charges, you have to have knowingly distributed the obscenity to a minor and known that it was in there. And that's what the Library Citizens Advisory Committee did. They have taken the culpability. There's no way you can say you didn't knowingly do it if you're a librarian. And I have nothing against libraries. I have nothing against librarians. I have something against the publishers who keep publishing this stuff. And the same person who actually stands up there will tell you that it's a trend. It's a trend, just live with it. In other words, normalizing pedophilia to children is a trend, so just live with it. And that's not going to stand. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Hello all. My name is Joe Weller and I'm here to talk about the recent election. I've attended the last 2 council meetings as a representative of all the election workers who were involved in the recent special election. I am confident in the impartiality and integrity of this process. My concern is, in my view, flippant comments about discrepancies and election fraud. I take exception to those comments and am here to defend my reputation and that of my fellow workers. It was my understanding that an audit of the election had been requested, and I'm wondering if that is going to take place. Really, that's all I had to say. I was hoping it was going to be part of the agenda, but I haven't heard you address it yet. And lastly, I just want to say I think it's part of the joy of living in Palmer that I can be impugned by my fellow community member and still sit next to her without needing the National Guard to be brought in. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, my name is Herb Bischoff. I live here in the city of Palmer. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing the public to attend the training that you all had the other day and regarding protocol and parliamentary procedures and how council members might act. I see that you took it to heart this evening and returned to the rules of order as you drifted away from that during the meeting. Congratulations on recognizing that and doing that. I also wanted to point out that there is a lot of passion for the community of Palmer's demonstrated by public participation, especially from members of the community that do not live within the city limits. Your discussion during the community as a whole regarding concern about the residency of your staff and employees, I think is an indication that there's passion among the employees as well. So if you feel this to be some sort of pressure on the community that they want to be involved, including utilizing the library, utilizing the sewer and water in your district and under your responsibility, utilizing the safety and other services that you provide to members who are not within the city limit, may I remind you that, as Councilman Hudson alluded to earlier, that annexation has been on the table for quite a number of years, and more members of the community are considering the possibility that the council may act in this regard to expand the boundaries of Palmer to include those people who are passionate about the community and wish to participate in a more formal and recognized manner and not be seen as outsiders when they come here, especially during the passionate and interesting comments made during audience participation. So take that under consideration, please, and start your discussion and start moving on that agenda item as well and take it off the table. Thank you.
Anyone else for audience participation?
My name is Bob Shaw, council members, Mr. Mayor. It seems to me like you all danced around the annexation a lot.
It's really quiet.
Can you get it closer?
Yeah, you danced around the annexation. It's something that you really do need to do. You need to consider it. It's an awful thing that has to happen, and you're going to get a lot of flack about it, but sooner or later, you're going to have to do it. The city of Palmer city limits are way too small. It's not going to be able to support some of the facilities and stuff that we want to build and the things that we want to do. So you're going to have to bite the bullet sooner or later. And all of the discussion that you had around 8 miles, 10 miles, and honestly, I don't know what you voted on. I was sitting here through the whole thing, and I still don't understand what you voted on. But it's very obvious that annexation needs to happen. And I agree with Herb. You need to actually start looking at that seriously because the problem is only going to get bigger. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for audience participation? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close audience participation. Next is council member comments. Councilmember Alcantara, if you want to start.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing you'd have to worry about me is I don't mind going first. I think it was indeed my idea to make sure that the deputy alternate mayor, the deputy mayor, and the mayor go 5, 6, and 7 on comments so they can have the last chance to have a counterpoint to different things that might happen. Had a lot to say for tonight, but we did some really good work in hiring an active city clerk that kind of diffused a little bit of what my comments were going to be, which is probably a good thing. Keep everybody in fairly good terms, but I did want to point out that we had a special meeting on May the 30th. And Mayor Carrington, you mentioned on your 3 days into the future, hey, audience, come down, talk about this situation with our previous city clerk. And then you didn't show up, and a couple other council members didn't show up, but we still had 4 members of council. We still had a quorum. We were still able to conduct business. We had audience participation. Appreciate that. Things proceeded very well, led by Deputy Mayor Josh Studer, probably the most well-run meeting I've had in my 3 years on council. So that was able to happen on Friday, May 30th. Not always fun to have meetings on Friday. I appreciate the kudos others gave us about the training that also happened on a Friday. It's not always fun to have meetings on Friday, but when you lead, you show up. And I'll always show up to make sure the citizens know that I'm working for them. I don't really get bothered by what people with axes to grind might say on Facebook. I come here to do the public's business, and when things are going off the rails, make sure they're put back on the rails, and I think we did that tonight. So that definitely makes me happy. I want to give kudos to our new acting city clerk. I think the fact that she's willing to serve and really has a way about her that I think will work out fantastic for all council members, all 7 of us that she'll have to serve. So I appreciate the fact that she's willing to take that on. Again, kudos to our deputy mayor. I do want to talk a little bit about the potential for an audit, because we don't want to shy away from any hard questions. And Mrs. Weller and the others that worked at the elections, they did a fine job, but something was amiss. And by something, I mean when a number goes from 389 to 407 to 398, sometimes there has to be a look to say, why exactly did this happen? And why were the percentages that were reported, even in the newspaper, don't add up to 100%? We should have taken the time to say, hey, this is the total vote count of 398, and this is the percentages. We shouldn't allow stuff to go out saying 54.4% said this, 43.3% said that, and you end up, hey, that's 97.7. I'm pretty good at math, and I had numerous people call me saying, what happened to the other 2.3% of the votes? So there's a lot of things that could have been handled better, and I think will be handled better in this upcoming October election. So I look forward to that. I'm glad we had the meeting that we did on May 30th, because it led to this meeting on June 10th and to a better place. So I'm happy for that. And I guess I'll just leave it. We should never worry about what others are going to say on social media. We should worry about what the citizens of Palmer need, what the people that elected us to these positions need. We don't, and to the best of our abilities, we should show up and make tough decisions every single time if possible. I realize things happen on Friday nights. People have to leave town. Things could have happened that way. I'm glad a quorum showed up. I'm glad we took the steps we did, and I'm glad we're at the situation we're at now. So the last piece I'll say is I agree with the last presenter, last audience participation, that we can no longer run away from the annexation question. I do think we've come to a conclusion that we need a mile radius instead of a water and sewer area because of the Dan Contini factor, former fire chief living on Lazy Mountain, because of what was presented by other members here today, that we don't want to constrict people because they don't live in a water service area when they might just be 3 miles down the road or a mile and a half down the road in the other side of the Matanuska River. So I think an annexation discussion is going to have to ensue over these next several years. Look forward to leading that discussion, and I think we'll get to a good place for the public. Thank you.
Councilmember Graver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good discussions this evening. Thank you guys for coming out and for making your voices heard. It really is helpful to hear all different sides of some things. For example, with the residency requirements. There's a lot to take into account with that, and I know that we're gonna put a lot of effort into making sure it's appropriate and helpful, whatever we end up with, and we want Palmer to have the best people that love our city and that want to serve it on our team. So thank you guys for lots of discussion on that and for your comments, guys. Thank you also to the city manager for all the updates. It's really helpful. All the dates given to us in advance and everything so that we can have that to look forward to, whether it's a project we're working on or AML or the candidacy openings. That's really helpful. I also wanted to thank Sonia Pavan, I think I'm saying her last name right, for the council training on Friday. It was really helpful. Obviously, we're not perfect at it yet, but hopefully getting there and improving. And last, I have been speaking with the city manager and city attorney about some issues with vagrancy in Palmer. It's not a new thing, but we're trying to take some preliminary, well, not preliminary, hopefully before things get a little more elevated with that action. So after our conversation, I would like to ask for council support to direct the city manager to write a letter requesting the management of Cars, Safeway, and Fred Meyer's to enforce the community-friendly policies and laws that we have in our municipal code with an emphasis on public health and safety.
Are you support that?
Thank you.
Well, that's sorry, what was the direction again?
I'm requesting that the city manager write a letter specifically to Cars and Fred Meyer to have them enforce our code, basically, specifically surrounding public safety and public health.
I guess I just wonder if that would be good for her to bring back to us before she sends it out.
Sure, yeah, I'm okay with that, to have it come before us.
Is that good? Okay. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, I hope everybody can come out to the Miners game on Thursday. I get to sing the national anthem, so I'm excited about that. And I hope it stays sunny. Have a good night.
Councilmember Irby.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to first say that, you know, the residency requirement, it was put in with good intentions, and it was put in quite a while ago. And the reason that they had a residency requirement was that they wanted to have, you know, department heads and managers who had an actual vested interest in the best for Palmer. But I have been swayed. I mean, I'm beginning to believe that it's an outdated ordinance. The technology that we have today renders it obsolete. So yeah, I just wanted to say that thanks for the comments tonight, that I have been swayed and will be changing my mind on the residency requirement. But now I wanted to get to something a little bit more serious. I'm not seeking re-election. I make no secrets of that. And I'm not here to make any friends. And without that sword hanging over my head, I'm going to call them as I see them. I don't have to walk on eggshells. I came across something that slipped beneath my radar when it first happened. It was a comment that was made by a citizen a few weeks ago that was missed because he was interrupted mid-sentence by the 3-minute limit. And it was very troubling. It seemed to explain a lot, and it kind of put things into perspective for me. The comment was about this memo. It was issued February 28th. It's a memorandum for record by our Director of Public Works, Jude Billifer. And it's regarding a discussion he had with Councilmember Hudson and Ms. Goldforth after the February 25th meeting. Okay, I apologize if this is not the appropriate time to bring this up. Normally, I'd bounce this off the city clerk, but we no longer have a clerk. She got fired. And I apologize if this memorandum has already been discussed, but I want to add my opinion on what it says, because it's disturbing in so many levels. First of all, a department head felt the need to submit such a document. He was subjected to such a unique incident that he was compelled to document it. And to summarize what's in this document, earlier this year, around February, Councilwoman Hudson contacted our representative in Juneau, claiming that Palmer's drinking water had elevated levels of radium. This implies that our drinking water wasn't safe, that it was toxic, and that's a serious thing. This got back to the mayor, who correctly contacted the person in charge of monitoring the quality and safety of our drinking water, the Director of Public Works. Since an irresponsible false rumor that Palmer's drinking water wasn't safe would cause panic and uproar, not only among the citizens of Palmer, but all the surrounding subdivisions that are connected to and dependent upon Palmer's drinking water system. And more important, such a rumor would cause irreparable damage to the confidence that people have in our city government. So, it was decided that the Director of Public Works would address the council as a whole, explaining the details and the testing procedures of our water, and assuring everyone that our drinking water was safe. It was troubling that he had to do such damage control, all because Councilwoman Hudson had stepped outside her authority. As Councilman Alcantara explained a few weeks ago, council members do not have any authority over city employees. We can hire and fire the city manager, the city attorney, and as we just found out, the recently fired city clerk. That's it. It's unethical for council members to interact with city employees unless it's for informational purposes like how many building permits were issued last month and how safe is our drinking water. If we want to interact with any employees or department heads, etiquette and ethics dictate that we coordinate such interaction through the city manager or interim manager, because the actual manager, like the clerk, had also been fired. Now, had Councilwoman Hudson simply gone through the proper ethical channels, had she gone through the interim manager and Department of Public Works first, none of this would have happened or even been necessary. But since she didn't, since she stepped outside her authority and chose to go over their heads to our Juneau representative and irresponsibly spread a false rumor that Palmer's drinking water wasn't safe, the city was put in a position to correct this, and as I mentioned before, to prevent panic and loss of confidence. But it gets worse. After the meeting, Councilwoman Hudson waved Director Billafor over for a chat, which is not unusual after a meeting, but it got troublesome when she took the chat into the privacy of the mayor's office, which is quite unusual, since I mentioned such interactions are out of the norm. She then took the further step to bring Mrs. Goforth, of all people, not another council member, but Mrs. Goforth, to be a witness, which is even more unusual. This gives the appearance that this meeting was premeditated, and I say meeting, but it seemed more of an ambush, as the director didn't have the opportunity or feel the need to invite a witness. Now, it's noted in this memorandum that Director Billafor was not aware which council person had spread the false story of toxic drinking water. He never mentioned anyone by name. Councilwoman Hudson criticized Director Billafor for calling out council members regarding the water quality statements, even though, like he said, he never singled anyone out. She then stated that the Director of Public Works looked really bad coming up and doing that briefing, and that it reflected poorly on him that the mayor had put him in that position. I'm sorry, but he looks bad for being put in the position of having to quash a Councilwoman Hudson's rumor that the drinking water wasn't safe. From where I stand, he didn't look bad. He did his job. Sounded to me like Councilwoman Hudson was the one that looked bad. As I said before, had she simply gone through the proper ethical channels, had she gone through interim manager and Department of Public Works first, none of this would have happened or even been necessary. The Director of Public Works then had to explain to her that the decision to give the briefing that quashed her false rumor was his, and that he was very comfortable in giving the briefing. And this is where it gets really bad. Councilwoman Hudson then told him, "You need to figure out which camp you're in." And to his credit, the Director of Public Works replied, "I do not have a camp. I work for the good of Palmer." This is just so troublesome on so many levels. The director then summarizes the main gist and apparent goal of his encounter with Councilwoman Hudson. 1, the Director of Public Works looked bad for quashing an irresponsible rumor started by Hudson. 2, the mayor was inept for not knowing about an imaginary threat to our drinking water. And 3, threatening the Director of Public Works that he needed to figure out what camp he was in. Now, to me, this is a veiled threat. Had she just added "or else" at the end, it would have been a blatant threat. And then this all took place in a closed room, and Councilwoman Hudson conveniently had the only witness, Mrs. Goforth. This entire episode was brought up by a citizen during audience participation a couple of weeks ago, but it didn't register because, like I said, his 3 minutes was cut off. Mrs. Goforth was the very next citizen to participate. She verified that she was indeed asked to be a witness, confirming that this meeting was not spontaneous, but appeared to be premeditated. She mentioned something about the necessity of having to have a witness due to possible harassment, sexual harassment by a previous manager. And then she said, and you can't make this up, she said that she really didn't hear what was being said, that her mind was somewhere else. But then she tried to claim that she didn't hear anything like the conversation detailed in this memo. Like I said, you can't make this up. If your mind is somewhere else and you aren't listening to what was being said, you aren't going to hear what's being said. So basically, she excused herself from being any type of credible witness. So again, I found this entire incident to be incredibly troublesome, that a department head had felt it necessary to submit such a memorandum, and that the details documented in the memorandum, the appearance exhibited by a city council person of incompetence, irresponsibility, questionable ethics, and an apparent threat, which is an apparent abuse of power by a city council member. But even more troublesome than all of this was the revelation, the leak of the existence of a camp, which the council, a camp that is city employees are being threatened to join. I'm squarely with the Director of Public Works. There's only one camp, those that work for the good of Palmer. That's the way we did it in 2003. It was the way we did it in 2013. But now it's been leaked and exposed. That's not how it's done anymore in 2025. There is now a camp, a deep state, if you will, with an apparent personal agenda. On the council, we have to be very careful. We're under very strict rules about communicating outside of public meetings. No more than 3 of us can communicate outside of these chambers about city issues. If a 4th member shows up, one of us has to leave, or we would be violating the Open Meetings Act. Now, I'm not saying that there's been any illegal communication among this camp. I'm not saying that there was any violations of the Open Meetings Act. But this revelation, this leak, that exposed the existence of a camp within the council sure gives that impression. Camps, by their very nature, are collectives of people with a common agenda. And this revelation, this camp, this deep state within the council explains a lot to me. Puts a lot of things into focus, like the library. We had a meeting on the library. It took us 45 minutes to just...
This is council comments.
I'm the other person who already said of all people. I'm filing harassment. And this is not what
Council.
comments is for. Everything he's saying is hearsay. You do understand that, right, Mayor? Everything he's saying is hearsay.
It's based
Council
off of a memo that was provided to us by a director head.
I'm of all other people. It's hearsay, and
You had your chance to talk.
You put my name personally in, sir.
I'm sorry, you were out of order.
Yes, I am, and I will be.
Okay.
And I will certainly go look at my legal options. Thank you.
Councilmember Irby.
To continue, the library, we debated over 45 minutes just on the agenda. And then we got an explanation as to why it took us 45 minutes to agree on the agenda, because it was a good example of the council wanting to do everything right. I found this explanation to be quite amusing because I was there at the meeting, along with almost 100 concerned citizens wanting their say and to hear what the city was going to do. It wasn't a good example of what the council wanted to do everything right. It was a good example of some council members doing everything they could to delay any action on the new library. We debated 45 minutes on the agenda for several reasons. I made a motion for the audience participation to be moved to a later slot because I've been contacted by several constituents who were upset that the 4 o'clock start time made it difficult for them to show up to a timely to the meeting. They were still at work and they wanted their voice heard. Councilman Alcantara had a better amendment. Simply add an additional audience participation, which would accomplish the same result. We voted, and it passed unanimously. Then, Councilwoman Hudson made the motion, seconded by Councilmember Alcantara, to eliminate all of the new business for that meeting. In other words, we would hear from the public, we would hear from the architect, we would hear from the Director of Community Development, but the public would not hear from the city. To nearly 100 people who could take the time to show up at the 4 o'clock meeting, it was thanks for coming and voicing your concerns, but we aren't going to do anything. Now go home. Apparently after 2.5 years, we couldn't rush into things. The city attorney wasn't present, and if anybody wanted any information, anything that could have been discussed could be found on the website. In other words, do your own research. I found this amusing because, as I'll point out later, rushing into things and whether or not the attorney was present, that didn't stop these council members from firing our city clerk. Since, like the audience, I wanted the informational items discussed, I voted no, as did Councilman Cooper, Mayor Carrington, and then Hudson and her camp attempted to gut the meeting. Their attempt to gut the meeting failed. Councilman Alcantara then falsely accused the three of us, Mayor Carrington, Councilman Cooper, and myself. And I just want to take the time to point out the fact that the three of us, Councilman Cooper, Mayor Carrington, and myself, between the three of us, we have almost 40 years of experience on this council doing what was best for Palmer, not acting on a personal agenda of any collective or camp. But to continue, Councilman Alcantara then falsely accused the three of us of not wanting any audience participation, not wanting to hear from the public, and that it was an unfortunate day in Palmer's history. This was insulting. As I said, we have over 40 years of combined experience doing what the public wants, and it was completely false. We had just voted for his amendment to give the people 2 opportunities to voice their opinions. We definitely wanted to hear what the people had to say, but unlike them, we also wanted for the people to hear what we as a city had to say. Informational items on what our options were, what tools were in the shed, like how the public could donate their money to get a new library built. But council members Hudson, Alcantara, and Graver used the fact that the attorney wasn't present to voice their concerns about the claim that public donations wouldn't have any oversight, somehow implying that this money would be tainted. In other words, they used any and all excuses to delay any actions taken by the city towards the new library for at least 3 weeks. Like one of the members in the audience pointed out, they say we fully support the new library, but then they do, we're going to kick the library can down the road for another 3 weeks. As Councilman Cooper later said, for expediency, we finally passed the agenda. The 100 people in the audience saw and understood what happened that night, and no amount of sugarcoating is going to change that. And then a more recent example, 2 weeks ago, we held a regular city council meeting. Council members Hudson and Alcantara requested a discussion regarding the role of the city clerk. This was expanded to include the roles of the manager and city attorney by the mayor and Councilman Cooper. So this would be a discussion about all 3 city employees that the council had authority, not just one public review of the clerk. The discussion quickly revealed what the true designated purpose. It turned in what appeared to be a coordinated ambush of the city clerk. Now, I'm not saying that there had been any illegal communication among this camp. I'm not saying that there had been any violations of the Open Meetings Act. But this, what appeared to be a coordinated attack on the clerk, sure gave that impression. Ethics and common decency dictate that such attacks on city employees be held behind closed doors in executive session, and the council was reminded of that fact. And in compliance with the published agenda, we can only discuss the roles of these employees, not make personal attacks, and so the ambush failed. Since the ambush failed, Councilwoman Hudson waited until after the meeting, and with the support of Councilman Alcantara, the two quickly and again after hours orchestrated a special meeting for Friday night. Rushing to have a meeting on a Friday night just 2 days away, and without, there's nothing wrong with such a request. It just has the appearance of being shady, since this camp had concerns about rushing into things with the attorney not being present.
Point of order.
What is your point, Councilmember Hudson?
If there is something that he's bringing forward, then he needs to bring it forward. We also have, per the code, 10-minute talking time constraint that you've asked us to adhere to. And also, you can't badmouth constituents by name, and also council members. Thank you.
I haven't been timing it. I'm guessing we're at the 10-minute mark. Can you wrap it up, Councilmember Irby?
Well, I just wanted to say to our fired clerk that we go back 20 years, and you've always been professional, and I'm going to miss you. Good luck on your future endeavors. But in addition to Shelley getting fired, 4 members of the council were basically fired because they violated the Open Meetings Act. Apparently they weren't smart enough to go on social media with false user IDs. A few months ago, the city manager was fired. Also, a city councilman resigned basically because he was effectively fired. And like I mentioned, just 2 weeks ago,
Mr. Mayor,
the
point
city
of
clerk was
order.
fired.
Putting the city in harm of lawsuits currently needs to stop. Thank you.
Councilmember Irby.
Well, I just think it's an unfortunate day in Palmer history to have it be revealed that there's they have to decide which camp they're in. And I also want to the accusations of voter fraud, election interference. I find that to be disgusting, and I appreciate everything. You know, the unofficial results came out, and that's the reason that they're unofficial, is because they're unofficial. The official results came out and totally explained all the discrepancies, at least to my satisfaction. And I want to thank you for all the work that you do for all of our elections. But yeah, apparently I'm not going to be allowed to speak anymore, so I think I've said enough. I've spoken more just now than I have the entire 12 years that I was a city councilman. So, yeah, sad day for Palmer.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, you don't allow clapping in the audience.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Irby. Councilmember Hudson, council comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to congratulate the new firefighters' graduation, including Alexa Calvert. I am proud of all the hard work they have all put in over the years. The Matsu Miners game Thursday for the city of Palmer is going to be nice and sunny, so we are very excited to attend that. The Colony Parade, I'm also very excited to be there with my family, and I just want to thank the Chamber for all the work that they've put into this event as well. Just a reminder that there is a difference between peaceful protest and rioting in the city of Palmer. And thank you to the city manager for working on live streaming these meetings for us. We were very disappointed at the beginning of the last meeting if it had been live streamed like it had been asked to be. then you guys would know that we actually tried to find other ways before, when we gavelled into the meeting, before we actually started the meeting, and those were not working for us at the time to live stream it to you guys. The meeting was...
Continue, Councilmember Hudson.
Yes, thank you. The meeting was legally noticed, and just like before COVID and live streaming started happening, there was a meeting. It was noticed 3 ways to the public per the special meeting. We followed code to call the special meeting. And we also did not get notice that the mayor or 2 other council members would not be in attendance until we were all sitting at this dais. We found out that the mayor wouldn't be in attendance about 10 minutes before the meeting started, and the other 2 council members, we just didn't know. And so since the meeting was publicly noticed, and since the city had followed code, then we continued with the meeting. We also continued to follow code and everything to hold the meeting. And we actually did refer to our city attorney multiple times as she was available. As you all would have seen if there had been a live stream, she was available actually, just like anytime we hold Zoom, like Councilman Cooper's available tonight. So that was great, and it was a legal meeting, and we held everything legally. There also was no OMA violation, as I would also report that if there was. I just want to clarify, as I have previously on record, and this statement will track exactly as I've said before, when we were all attending Juneau, I was asked, Councilman Alcantara and I actually were asked at breakfast that morning, and Councilwoman Graber, as there's no OMA restrictions at AML for council members, to attend a meeting with one of our representatives, as you know, he wanted us to be there with him. And he was literally begging multiple times for us to come to the meeting. So Councilwoman Graber was unavailable, so Councilman Alcantara and I went and met at the meeting, and the representative had asked questions about why the city was involved with different things with the state pertaining to our sewer and water. The mayor was unable to answer on behalf of the city, so as a councilwoman who's there representing the city of Palmer as well, and our mayor was unable to answer the question, I then pulled up the documents that the Public Works had provided on our website for the city of Palmer, and I then turned around my computer and presented those documents exactly as they are on our city website. From the time they were presented on the city website as they are dated, and then I proceeded to say this was the last that we had heard, and that we were the city was taking care of it. We were working with them to take care of any fines that had happened, and that everything was good now. She had then mentioned some other things that were going on in the city of concern that she had mentioned to the mayor that he had failed to present to this council. We then brought those issues back as well. As soon as we came back, the comments were made, and my husband and I have a very strict rule in our marriage that we are not ever allowed with the opposite sex for any reason in private. So since I was called back into the room to have a private discussion, I then pulled the closest person who was there, and there was, I think, 2 or 3 people standing in the hallway. And because I do know of Jackie Goforth, and she was the only woman that was standing there, I then asked her to come into the room, not to over-listen to the conversation, but to be another body in the room. So, yes, because that's protecting myself. And this is exactly why we have that policy in our marriage. I also want to say that I was extremely disappointed in the live stream at the last meeting, as it was non-existent. And so thank you to our city manager for working on the live streaming for those meetings. I also want to say congratulations to Benji Johnson, our new acting city clerk. I'm very excited to have you as our new clerk. I also have some concerns with things that are going on at the borough and our sister city, specifically the Transportation Board. I have brought this forward multiple times in my tenure on the council, and I hope that our city manager and department directors continue to be on top of those things, as it seems that they are trying to make decisions without us. I also agree that annexation needs to be at the top of our radar as a council, and I'm thankful to see the road paving project starting within the city as well in the next year. That has been very important to our constituents. I know that was a big deal when I was running for council, so I'm very thankful to see that coming forward. And I also want to second with Councilman Tudor concern with Cedarview and the sinkholes that have been developing there. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the events this week.
All right. Alternate Deputy Mayor Jim Cooper.
Thank you. I'm still here. Councilman Herbie, I want to thank you for all your comments. Very appropriate. You took a lot of my wind out of my sails. I guess what I'm going to want to just, reiterate is that I hope that the training that folks went to this last Friday was taken to heart. Particularly anything that deal with the Open Meetings Act and potential violations of the ethics code. When you start calling city employees names, whether it be lackluster or whatever it is, we need to be paying attention to what we're doing and who we're talking to, and it shouldn't be put in the newspaper. All that stuff is supposed to be, in private. You praise in public and you criticize in private. So I think we all need to make sure we take that to heart. And Benji, I want to congratulate you on your new job, and hopefully that you will consider, taking it on as a full-time position. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Tudor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the kind words, Councilwoman Alcantara. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the mention of the audience about annexation, something that I've been talking a lot on my social media pages. And my thought with this would be something probably best really seriously discussed come October after the election. Especially because I may not be here. I don't want my ghost hanging over the discussion. So I think that'd be something best done then, because we also need to look at updating a comprehensive plan, and it would be really great to put those together so that we can have a focus as a council. And I just want to say, Palmer PD, Officer Acting Chief Spinsky. Hopefully that's all right. I'm sorry, I always mispronounce your name. I'm so sorry. He presented at the Palmer Rotary Club. It was a very good presentation. So sorry, thank you so much for that. Also, after our training on Friday, which was terrific, I just wanted to disclose, just to be safe, I did provide Palmer PD with a business grade router. It's not like the box ever got open, but I did provide one. There was no change of money or anything like that. It was just something I was like, here, see if this fixes your problem, just to diagnose issues. So I just want to let the public know. But again, there was no change of money. It wasn't like a work thing. It was just kind of thought it was a good cause, so I wanted to make sure they had access to that. And also just want to say, the graduation ceremony for Palmer Fire and Rescue was amazing. I went there on Friday. It was great to see our city manager there with her family, and it was a great event. And also we had Farmland Forever this past weekend. It's a really good cause. It helps protect our farmlands, and if we want food security, we need farmlands and we need farmers. So always a good cause. And just a reminder, I know it's been mentioned by Councilman Graver and the mayor as well, that this Thursday is a day for the Mat-Su Miners of the city of Palmer. This is going to be really great. And probably the best part is going to be Councilwoman Graver singing the national anthem again. She did a really good job. It was the opening day, I think, right? When he sang, she did amazing. So we're really lucky to have her on the council. I just want to say, Benji, congratulations. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you. And we have a lot coming up this weekend. So this is the 90th anniversary of the colony. This is a big colony days. Well, it's going to be a big parade. I think we have over 60 floats, so it's going to be a really big parade. And and if you're hungry for breakfast, the Palmer Lions Club from 8 to 10:30 is doing their annual breakfast. New location though, it's not going to be at the Moose Lodge. They're having it at the Mat-Su Senior Center. So that's going to be from 8 to 10:30, and the parade starts at 11, and it'll be a really good time. Again, we have a lot of groups, and it's the 90th anniversary. So on Sunday, if you come over to the Palmer Train Depot, the Palmer Chamber and the Historical Society of my family are sponsoring an event there. So we're going to have some themed music, and that's going to be a really good time, refreshments, everything. So please come by to show your support, because we're going to have some really great activities there. So thank you very much.
And I'd also like to thank Mr. Billafer for his report and especially bringing to light some of the interesting arrangements with DOT and the borough. We'll have some follow-up discussions with that. And we're adjourned at 9:15.